The Primal Fundraiser, Game Theory and the Natural Origins of Effective Fundraising. The Fundraising Myth and Science Series, Book 3. Russell James III, J.D., Ph.D., Professor, Director of Graduate Studies in Charitable Financial Planning, and C.H. Foundation Chair in Personal Financial Planning, Texas Tech University. The text version of this book includes extensive footnotes. For references and detailed discussions, please reference the text version of this book. These footnotes have been omitted from the audio version in order to improve the listening experience. The Fundraising Myth and Science Series. Book 1, The Storytelling Fundraiser, The Brain, Behavioral Economics, and Fundraising Story. Book 2, The Epic Fundraiser, Myth, Psychology, and the Universal Hero Story in Fundraising. Book 3, The Primal Fundraiser, Game Theory and the Natural Origins of Effective Fundraising. Book 4, The Socratic Fundraiser, Using Questions to Advance the Donor's Story. Introduction. The Matryoshka Doll. This series started with the Storytelling Fundraiser. That introduced fundraising and the science of story. Next was the Epic Fundraiser. That focused on a specific story, the monomyth. Now we begin the Primal Fundraiser. This explores the natural origins of philanthropy. These three topics are like a Russian nesting doll. Each doll contains a smaller doll hidden inside it. The first part was the surface doll. It focused on story words and simple experiments. The results were objective. The science was hard science. Inside that doll was another. It took a turn to the subconscious. It explored myth, the universal hero's journey. It explored psychology, Jung's hero archetype. But inside that doll is yet another. Don't worry, it's the last doll. The final book focuses only on practical applications. Into the rabbit hole. The attraction to the hero's journey is deep and primal. It connects with myth and psychology, but the attraction goes further. It taps into the natural origins of mankind. Professor Jim Dillon writes, quote, "Given the pervasive presence of the primal vision monomyth across culture and time, it is reasonable to conclude that there are powerful structuring forces within the human psyche that incline it to cast the meaning of human existence, suffering, and healing in these three-part primal vision terms." Close quote. The hero archetype, like other archetypes, originates in natural selection. Carl Jung explains that an archetype is, quote, "an inherited mode of functioning, corresponding to the inborn way in which the chick emerges from the egg, the bird builds its nest, a certain kind of wasp stings the motor ganglion of the caterpillar, and eels find their way to the Bermudas." Close quote. The reason that the archetype is universal is that it's genetic. The study of naturally selected behavior is called ethology. Psychiatrist Anthony Stevens writes, quote, "Ethology and Jungian psychology can be viewed as two sides of the same coin. It is as if ethologists have been engaged in an extroverted exploration of the archetype," close quote. Or, as Jung describes, quote, "All those factors, therefore, that were essential to our near and remote ancestors will also be essential to us, for they are embedded in the inherited organic system." Close quote. The following chapters explore these natural origins. These origins underlie philanthropy in general, but they also underlie the donor's hero story in particular. Why jump in? Look, I get it. This type of theoretical inquiry feels far removed from everyday fundraising. But this isn't just about academic theory. It's about effective fundraising. It may be down the rabbit hole, but it's still about being a better fundraiser tomorrow than you were yesterday. This book can help in two ways. First, it gives you the secret code for philanthropic behavior. This is different than just learning a few fundraising tips and tricks. A tactic may have worked for someone else. Understanding the why beneath the how does more. It shows when a tactic will or won't work for you. It shows what to expect in any new scenario. Once you understand the rules of the game, new is not scary. New causes, new messages, new donors, or new media aren't a problem. The underlying principles still apply. The how may change, the why stays the same. Second, it deepens understanding and confidence in effective strategies. It shows triangulation. Each book takes a dramatically different approach, but these different approaches don't lead to different conclusions. Instead, they converge. The one big thing in fundraising remains the same: advance the donor's hero story. Gaining deeper knowledge fits this same story. It matches the fundraiser's role as the hero's guiding sage. What's ahead? The hero's journey is an attractive story. See Book 2 in this series, The Epic Fundraiser. It also contains the steps for identity enhancement. That journey progresses through original identity, links to challenge, links to victory, links to enhanced identity. These same steps also create the ideal donor experience. Further, each step connects to natural origins. This book explores those connections. The following chapters match this sequence of steps. Each chapter title gives the topic. Each subtitle gives the emotional statement we want donors to feel. Step 1. Connecting with original identity. 1. Primal fundraising and subjective similarity. I'm like them. 2. Primal fundraising and reciprocal alliances. I'm with them. 3. Primal fundraising and reciprocal capacity. I'm with them because they're important to me. 4. Relationship is the foundation of primal fundraising. I'm with them because we're partners. 5. Primal fundraising leads with a gift. I'm with them because I'm important to them. Steps 2 and 3. Presenting a challenge and winning a victory. 6. Impact, gratitude, and reciprocity in primal fundraising. I can make a difference. 7. Heroic donation displays in primal fundraising. I can be your hero, baby. 8. The heroic donation audience in primal fundraising. I need a hero. Step 4. Delivering an enhanced identity. 9. Primal fundraising delivers practical value with identity and audience. This is totally worth it. 10. The power of community in primal fundraising. I'm not just giving, I'm sharing. 11. Social norms in primal fundraising. People like me make gifts like this. 12. Primal fundraising delivers transcendent value with internal identity. I believe in this. Chapter 1. Primal fundraising and subjective similarity. I'm like them. Story works. In fundraising, story is powerful. Story works better than formal descriptions. Story works better than facts and figures. Simply, story works better than non-story. But for an effective fundraising story, we need something more. It's not enough to tell a story. We need to tell the donor's story. The donor's story works. A compelling ask includes identity, links to challenge, links to victory, links back to identity. When does a story become the donor's story? This happens when the donor identifies with its characters and values. Fundraising starts with identity. Donors identify with characters they feel are like them. Screenwriter Robert McKee explains it this way. Empathetic means like me. In brain research, donations involve taking another's perspective. They also involve empathy for the other's situation. Both steps are easier when donors feel the other person is like them. This feeling of similarity is powerful in fundraising. To understand why, we need to go back, way back, all the way back to natural origins. Natural origins. In 1964, W.D. Hamilton presented a genetic model for giving. Giving doesn't help the donor, but it can help the donor's genes. Giving is genetically helpful when my cost is less than their benefit multiplied by our similarity. The math is easy. More benefit means more giving. Thus, need or impact matters, but so does similarity. This simple model matches some findings. Similarity in behavior, location, or appearance correlates with genetic similarity. Sharing these factors also increases cooperation and altruistic sharing. People often give more to those who are like them in some way. In experiments, giving increases when the donor and recipient share political views, religious views, sports team loyalty, or even music preferences. Similarity is subjective. Hamilton's math is simple, but people are complex. A specific similarity with another is an objective fact, but its importance is not objective. Its importance is subjective. Not every similarity counts. It must trigger a feeling that the other person is like me. It must trigger identification. Important similarities are identity-defining similarities. Suppose a giver and receiver share a likeness. They might both be Catholic, or from Ohio, or Hispanic. If a donor identifies with the factor, emphasizing it will help. Otherwise, it won't. That's why some similarities matter and others don't. In one experiment, people could donate to rebuild after a hurricane, but different people saw different photos of damage. The victims in the photos were white or black or obscured. Which pictures worked better? It depended. Potential donors were asked, "How close do you feel to your ethnic or racial group?" Those answering very close or close gave more when the pictured victims matched their own race. For those answering not very close or not close at all, the result reversed. They gave more when the victims did not match their own race. Race mattered, but identity determined how it mattered. Objective similarity mattered, but subjective feelings determined how it mattered. Similarity with charities. Similarities with a beneficiary can make a difference, but in fundraising, the donor doesn't give directly to a beneficiary. The donor gives to a charity. This creates another chance for shared identity. The donor can still identify with the beneficiary, but he can also identify with the charity and its agents. For example, a donor might give to famine relief through his church, but he might never have given directly to a famine relief charity. The famine victims might be identical. The impact might be identical, but the charity is different. Sharing identity with the charity can motivate a gift. A donor can also identify with the fundraiser. Sharing similarities can help. In experiments, people are more compliant if the requester shares the same birthday, fingerprint similarities, or the same first name. One study examined 27 years of major gift proposals at a major research university. When female major gift prospects were solicited by female fundraisers, they were more likely to give, gave larger amounts, and were more likely to make subsequent gifts. Another study looked at a university's fundraising phone calls. Alumni were more likely to give to student callers who shared their same field of study, first name, or even first letter of their first name. This also happened when the alumnus's name started with the same letter as the university's name. Another study found a similar result. It asked for donations for an education project. If the project was led by a teacher with the donor's first name, giving doubled. The importance of name matching might seem odd, but one's name is central to one's identity. In fundraising, identity-defining similarities are powerful. Fundraising and subjective similarities. Identity-defining similarity makes giving attractive. Similarities can be shared with beneficiaries or charity personnel, but this shared identity is not fixed. A fundraiser can influence it. She can do the following: reference and remind donors of similarities, shape perceived similarities through Socratic inquiry, build perceived similarities through donor experiences, suggest giving options that match with identity-defining similarities. Some similarities are obvious, but the real power comes from similarities that matter to the donor. These connect with the donor's identity-defining characteristics. How can a fundraiser discover these? By listening. Powerful fundraising begins by asking questions and listening. Appreciative inquiry can uncover the donor's life story and values. These reveal the donor's identity-defining traits. They show the similarities that matter to the donor. Armed with this information, the fundraiser can match the giving challenge with the donor's identity. A gift can support specific projects. It can help specific people. It can advance specific values. This can link the first two steps in the journey. Original identity links to challenge, links to victory, links to enhanced identity. A fundraiser can uncover these identity-defining factors, but she can do more. She can influence them. Asking what's important to the donor changes attitudes. It highlights the importance of these issues. In experiments, asking donors about the importance of causes or projects increases support. Asking donors to recall life story connections to a cause does the same. These Socratic processes change donor attitudes. Donor experiences can also build shared identity. Events can create a sense of shared group membership. They can enhance feelings of similarity. Marketing, too, can emphasize shared identity. Any experience that makes the donor think, "I'm like them," is powerful. Summary. Similarities matter. They matter for the beneficiary. They matter for the charity. Ultimately, helping people or organizations like us is compelling. But this us is not set in stone. The donor subjectively defines this us group. However the donor defines it, being part of us is powerful. Chapter 2. Primal Fundraising and Reciprocal Alliances. I'm with them. Effective fundraising starts with identity. Compelling fundraising story connects the donation story with the donor's story. When does a story become the donor's story? When the donor identifies with its characters and values. In fundraising, identifying with others is powerful. It's what turns them into us. It's what turns giving into sharing. A donor identifies with others for two reasons. 1, I am like them. 2, I am with them. The first reflects subjective similarity. The second, alliances. Both are rooted in natural origins. Natural origins of giving. I am like them. Altruism means I give away something valuable to help another. Why would natural selection lead to this behavior? The first explanation is similarity. I am like them. This is the simple math from Hamilton. I give if my cost is less than their benefit multiplied by our similarity. This approach is simple. Most altruism in animals matches this model. Natural origins of giving. I am with them. But what if we're not related? How could natural selection lead to altruism? I give up something valuable. It helps you, but it costs me. And you are not at all like me. In natural selection, this seems like a bad idea. But now let's add a wrinkle. Suppose our world becomes better if we both act this way. This changes things. Altruism is still costly, but in the long run, it could benefit me. It could also benefit others similar to me. This opens the possibility for alliances. This opens the possibility for reciprocal altruism. Let's play a game. We have a dilemma. Altruism costs the donor. But if everyone does it, everyone is better off. Otherwise, altruism outside the family would never make sense. Biologists model this dilemma with a game. Let's start with 2 players. My choice is this. I keep everything and get a larger reward, or I give and get a smaller reward. That's an easy choice. The answer is simple. Don't give. Now suppose my gift helps the other player more than it costs me. The answer is still simple. Don't give. With an unrelated player, changing the payoff doesn't matter. Adding a new twist changes the game. Now, the other player also faces the same choice. If we both give, we both become better off. A simple trade now makes sense. But a new problem changes the game once more. Suppose each must choose before knowing what the other player will do. Here's an example. Both players face these payoffs. If I don't give and they don't give, we each get 1 point. If I give and they give, we each get 2 points. But if I give and they don't give, I get 0 points and they get 3. Or if I don't give and they do give, I get 3 points and they get 0. If we both give, we both win. We each get 2 points. The total is 4 points. If I give and they don't, they win big and I lose big. I get 0 points. They get 3 points. The total is 3 points. If neither gives, we both lose. We each get 1 point. The total is only 2 points. This simple game captures the core issue. Reciprocal altruism is possible. It is beneficial, but it requires an alliance. It requires trust. Why? Because I must act before I know what the other player will do. The little game that could. This little game is powerful. Biologists use it to model reciprocal altruism across the natural world. Research finds reciprocal altruism in vampire bats, vervet monkeys, sea bass, minnows, guppies, fig wasps, and tree swallows. It arises in, quote, fungi, plants, fish, birds, rats, and primates, close quote. Giving is natural. Specifically, reciprocal giving is natural. This little game is powerful because it captures the underlying primal donation decision. But it can also model modern giving. Consider this situation. My neighborhood is raising money to refurbish its park. Suppose everyone gives a lot. The park will be beautiful. Property values will go way up. Everyone will win. Suppose I don't give, but everyone else still does. I come out even further ahead. Property values still go up, but it costs me nothing. Suppose I give big, but others don't. I lose. It will cost me a lot, but improvements will be limited. Property values won't go up much. Finally, if nobody gives, nobody benefits. Property values won't change. These four outcomes match the game. The game models my modern donation trade-offs. It turns out this little game is quite flexible. With small variations, it can model impact, gratitude, publicity, threat or opportunity, tax deductions, lead gifts, matching gifts, new donor attrition, recipient similarity, prospect development, donor benefits, crisis appeals, and more. Winning strategies. It starts with a simple choice: give or don't. But with many rounds and many players, the game gets complicated. Giving costs. Without reciprocity, it's never repaid. So winning means predicting reciprocity. That's tricky, but it starts with an unbreakable natural law. It starts with this: giving must be seen by partners who are able and willing to reciprocate. Without this, reciprocity is impossible. Without this, giving always loses. Observers must be able and willing to reciprocate. Thus, two factors encourage giving in the game. 1. Audience capacity. This answers, are they able to reciprocate? 2. Reciprocity signals. This answers, are they willing to reciprocate? These are rules for the primal giving game. These are also rules for the modern fundraising game. We'll look at both in depth, but first, it's important to recognize something. That's not how people think. Okay, I get it. These games might be fun, but there's a problem. Maybe you've sensed it already. You might be saying, that's not how people think, or nobody plays this silly Sudoku game before donating. Fine, I'll concede. This isn't how people think. Well, maybe professors do, but we don't count as real people. Here's the thing. Natural selection isn't based on what people think. It's based on what they do. It's how they act. Can we predict where a cow will graze? Yes. How? With a spatial lag regression model, specifically one including elevation, slope, cover, and distance from fence, roads, and water. Don't believe me? Read the academic paper. But is that how cows think? Are cows secretly doing calculus? Probably not. But cows do graze optimally. The ones who didn't died out long ago. Optimizing behaviors replicate. Failing behaviors don't. A model that identifies optimizing behavior will predict actions. This is true even if it isn't how a creature thinks. Natural origins might not predict how people will think. They do predict how people will act. The game predicts actions. But the game's math calculations are not how people think. Indeed, they shouldn't be. Slowly making such deliberative calculations is inefficient. Instead, these reactions are quick. They're embedded deep in fast, intuitive, emotional systems. Zoologist Gerald Carter explains, quote, "Calculated reciprocity in humans often appears instinctive, subconscious, and context-specific. Rather than relying on strategic self-control, many human prosocial behaviors are fast, intuitive, and built into our basic emotions. Reasoning through a logic puzzle is slow and difficult compared to the way insight is quickly gained about the same logical problem framed as a social exchange." Close quote. How people think is with social emotion, not math. But the math still predicts behavior. In each case, the game works. It matches experiments. It matches real-world donor behavior. It matches effective fundraising practice. It's how they act even when it doesn't make sense. But wait a second. A famine relief donor isn't actually expecting reciprocity. The famine victims aren't going to return any favors, and they certainly aren't close relatives. Why are these signals still important? An example from biology might help. In the 1940s, a biologist was working with herring gull chicks. Chicks begged for food by pecking on a parent's beak. Noticing a red dot on the beaks, he painted this on a flat stick. The chicks pecked at the red dot on the stick. But then things got weird. He made a striped metal rod with even stronger contrast. The chicks went for it. They loved it so much, they ignored the parents' natural markings. Here's another example. The female fritillary butterfly's fluttering wings attract males for mating. In nature, faster fluttering shows better health and a more attractive mate. But in the lab, a rotating cylinder creates superfast fluttering. It turns out male butterflies prefer the high-speed cylinder to actual female butterflies. These supernormal stimuli are odd examples, but they show an underlying idea. Preferences develop in the original natural setting, but they continue even after the setting changes. They continue even if they no longer make sense. Prehistoric man had no international relief charities, but the giving signals selected in prehistory still matter today. They still matter even if they no longer make sense. The signals still matter. Instead of birds and butterflies, let's look at people. In the game, the unbreakable natural law of giving starts with giving must be seen. Gift visibility works. But here's where it gets weird. It works even if it isn't real. Just posting a picture of watching eyes nearby increases donations. The results get even more extreme. One experiment put 3 dots on fundraising appeal letters for a public library. The 3 dots were arranged either as a pyramid or as eye spots. Letters with eye spots generated more than 3 times the donations of those with a pyramid. Of course, this isn't logical, but it is predictable. The ancient signals still drive behavior, even when they no longer make sense. When we flip that switch, we get a response. Conclusion. This little game shows when reciprocal altruism works. It shows when it works in the big game of survival. In prehistory, we won that game by paying attention to these signals. The modern world is different, but playing the modern fundraising game still requires paying attention to these ancient signals. Next, we'll explore one of those signals. Chapter 3. Primal Fundraising and Reciprocal Capacity. I'm with them because they're important to me. It starts with a question. In nature, sustainable giving to unrelated others does occur, but it happens only with reciprocal alliances. These alliances start by answering a question. Who is able and willing to return a favor? Predicting who is able involves many factors. Who is likely to have a shared future with me? Who is near me? Who is stable? Who has strength or other valuable resources to share? Who can observe my giving? Answering these gets complex, but biologists often model these using a simple game, the primal giving game. The game is this. Two unrelated players both face these payoffs. I don't give and they don't give, we each get 1 point. I do give and they give, we each get 2 points. I give and they don't give, I get 0 points, they get 3. I don't give and they give, I get 3 points, they get 0. Each must choose to give or not before knowing what the other will do. The game has an unbreakable law. It is this. Giving must be seen by partners who are able and willing to reciprocate. Without this, reciprocal altruism fails. Giving costs. Thus, if a gift's audience can't reciprocate, giving always loses. As capacity to reciprocate grows, so can giving. One round game. Suppose there is only one round of this game. In that case, giving would break the first law. My giving is never seen by a partner with capacity to reciprocate. They must decide to give before they see my choice. After they see my choice, the game is over. Giving is possible, but reciprocity is not. In this scenario, we have no future together. The right play is simple. Don't give, ever. Without reciprocity, giving always loses. Invisible giving. The game must have more than one round. Otherwise, giving never makes sense. What if the game had multiple rounds, but no one could tell if I gave or not? Again, giving would break the first law. If other players never see my gifts, they can't respond to them. They can't reciprocate. Without reciprocity, giving always loses. One night stand. Now suppose my giving is visible, but only to the other player. Reciprocity is possible, but only if I encounter this player again. What if we will never meet again? Giving would break the first law. We have no shared future. This player has no capacity for reciprocity. Without reciprocity, giving always loses. Capacity for reciprocity in the game. In this game, the audience's capacity to reciprocate is simple. It's just the number of future game meetings. If I'll meet them in 0 future games, they can't reciprocate. If I'll meet them in 1 future game, they can. If I'll meet them in 10 future games, they can reciprocate 10 times more. Chance fits in the game too. If there's a 1% chance I'll meet them in 1 more game, I probably don't care. But if there's a 10% chance I'll meet them in 100 more games, I probably should care. Capacity for reciprocity in nature. Strangers versus neighbors. In nature, reciprocal altruism starts with the same question. Do we have a shared future? In other words, will we play future reciprocal games? The formal idea is this, quote, "The shadow of the future makes it ecologically rational for organisms to cooperate, rather than cheat or exploit each other. In part, this is because an act of defection now lowers the probability of receiving a stream of benefits in the future if one's partner responds to defection in kind." Close quote. In the game, this shadow of the future is simple. It's the expected number of future interactions. In nature, this number is high for neighbors and low for strangers. Researchers explain, quote, "There are two quite different kinds of interaction. Those in neighboring territories where the probability of interaction is high, and strangers whose probability of future interaction is low." Close quote. Neighbors have a shared future. Strangers usually don't. Among neighbors, the capacity to reciprocate is high. Among strangers, it is low. Animals will form reciprocal alliances with neighbors. They'll do so even with competing neighbors. But they won't do this with strangers. One example of mutual sharing happens in the ocean. Small cleaner fish will eat parasites off larger fish. The larger fish don't eat the cleaners, although they could. Both sides benefit. But this doesn't happen everywhere. It happens only when there are stable neighborhoods. Researchers explain, quote, "Aquatic cleaner mutualisms occur in coastal and reef situations where animals live in fixed home ranges or territories. They seem to be unknown in the free mixing circumstances of the open sea." Close quote. Some places, such as the open ocean, have no neighborhoods. Without stable neighbors, repeated interactions are rare. Without this shared future, reciprocal helping disappears. In nature, sustainable giving starts with a shared future. This requires stable neighbors. For example, ants have many reciprocal relationships with other species. Ant colonies stay in one place. In contrast, honeybees don't have such relationships. Honeybee colonies often relocate. Reciprocal altruism starts with this question: do we have a shared future? With unstable neighbors, expected future meetings decline. With unstable neighbors, reciprocal altruism fails. Charity, strangers. So, what do games, fish, ants, and bees have to do with fundraising? In each case, sustainable giving starts by answering, do we have a shared future? Stable neighbors have a future together. Passing strangers don't. Some charities see the big open ocean of generic prospects. They think success lies there. They like their own story, so their thought is this: just throw our message as far and wide as possible. The potential is unlimited. This sounds good, and yes, the charity can reach many prospects, but it reaches them as a stranger. Approaching another as a stranger doesn't encourage sharing. Nature says strangers make bad partners. Thus, this open ocean approach isn't initially rewarding. Professor Adrian Sargent explains, quote, "It typically costs nonprofits 2 to 3 times as much to recruit a donor than they will give by way of a first donation." Close quote. Nevertheless, this strategy can eventually work. But it works only if the charity then becomes a stable, reciprocal neighbor. The charity must create a shared future with the donor. In the game, this means ongoing reciprocal interactions. Charity neighbors. Call it engagement. Call it relationship. Call it community. These are all good social-emotional words, but in the game, they simplify to one thing. These are the expected number of future reciprocal interactions. Increase this, and giving makes sense. Eliminate this, and it doesn't. How can a charity increase future reciprocal interactions? There are many ways. Maybe it's building a mutually supportive community of board members. Maybe it's creating compelling volunteer activities. Maybe it's hosting attractive gatherings. But let's start simple. Want to succeed in fundraising? Go see donors. Bring a gift. Neighbors do that. Good ones do it regularly. It sounds simple, but it's rare because it's hard work. Staying in the office is easier. Pontificating about branding style guides is more fun. But answer this. What works in the Primal giving game? The game isn't about marketing corporate speak. Instead, it depends on a number. It depends on the expected number of future reciprocal interactions. This starts with a simple question. Do we have a shared future together? Charity neighbors and strangers in legacy giving. Go see donors? Really? Is that it? No, but it starts there. Many charities fail to take this first step, even with potentially large donors. Consider legacy giving. The estate gift is normally, by far, the largest gift a donor will ever make. And yet, charities often react to learning of such a planned gift by disappearing. Modern campaign metrics use a count it and forget it approach. A charity learns it is in the donor's will, so it declares victory, and then disappears. Fundraisers receive no credit for maintaining the relationship. The neighborly visits stop. This changes the answer to, do we have a shared future? It changes the expected number of future reciprocal interactions. What happens then? The gift goes away. One study looked at decedents from several large charities' legacy societies. What happened during their last 2 years of life? About 1 in 4 received no communications from the charities. Among these people, half removed their gifts. But for those who got at least one communication, fewer than a quarter removed their gifts. This seems obvious, right? Stay connected to your donors. But even among these large charities, it often didn't happen. And when it didn't, the gifts went away. Neighbor strength and stability in nature. Reciprocal altruism works best with a strong, stable neighbor. In the game, sharing with a player who is about to leave makes no sense. This changes the answer to the question, do we have a shared future? In nature, weakness or sickness usually ends reciprocal cooperation. Researchers explain, quote, the ability to monitor cues for the likelihood of continued interaction is helpful as an indication of when reciprocal cooperation is or is not stable. Illness in one partner leading to reduced viability would be one detectable sign of declining future interactions. Both animals in a partnership would then be expected to become less cooperative. Close quote. This occurs even at the microscopic level. In a microbiome mutiny, formerly helpful bacteria become harmful when a host becomes seriously ill. The strategy makes sense. A partner who is likely to expire can't offer long-term reciprocity. Reciprocal altruism no longer works. In the game and in nature, sharing works best with a strong, stable partner. This is true for people too. In experiments, people are more likely to share with a high-status player. Even in primitive tribes, high-status members receive more gifts of food. Charity strength and stability in fundraising. For real-world fundraising, the results are similar. Donors give more to strong, stable charities. Studies using financial data from thousands of charities confirm this. One reports that fundraising success is predicted by a charity's, quote, ability to continue to operate and provide charitable services in the event of changed economic circumstances, close quote. Another concludes, quote, donors want to know whether the organization can continue to operate in the future, close quote. But wait, shouldn't large donations go to the neediest organizations? Nature says no. Nature says share with the strongest, most stable partners. Do large donations go to the neediest organizations? Of course not. More than 2/3 of all donations over $1 million go to universities that hold large endowments or foundations that are large endowments. In 2019, 9 of the 10 largest charitable gifts went to such groups. Stability is particularly important for estate gifts. Death reminders increase giving to a charity when it is described as making a, quote, lasting rather than an immediate impact. Among those with estates over $5 million, 78% of charitable dollars go to permanent foundations. Over a quarter of all charitable bequests to education go to just 35 of the wealthiest, oldest, and most stable private schools. As in nature, strength and stability attract giving. Showing charity strength and stability. Strong, stable charities attract major gifts. If you have it, emphasize it. Be careful, though. This isn't just about, aren't we so great? It's still about the donor. It's about answering, do we have a shared future together? Strength and stability messages can help. They help when they show that donors can make a lasting impact here. They help when they show that we can have a long future together. But what if the charity is new? In experiments, just using permanence language to describe impact can help. Also, when a charity doesn't have permanence, it can sometimes borrow it. It can borrow it from other supporters. A community of wealthy and committed donors has strength and stability, even if the charity is new. Strong, stable partners encourage giving by others. Research experiments show this. People are more likely to donate after seeing a high-status player give than after seeing a low-status player give. A charity can even borrow permanence from other organizations. In experiments, the chance to endow a permanent fund can dramatically increase donations. Even a new or unstable charity can offer this. It can create a fund held by a strong community foundation. Conclusion. In the game, giving depends on a question. Will we play future reciprocal games? In other words, do we have a shared future? In nature and in fundraising, the same question applies. There are many ways to show, yes, we have a shared future. There are many ways to build community. There are many ways to be a strong, stable neighbor. Pick your favorite. But the underlying game still matters. When a charity wins the primal giving game, it wins the fundraising game. Chapter 4. Relationship is the foundation of primal fundraising. I'm with them because we're partners. In nature, giving to unrelated others can be sustainable, but it requires some form of reciprocity. This need not be immediate. It need not be proportional. It can be a different size or type. It can occur much later. But it starts by answering a question. Who is able and willing to return a favor? Answering this simple question can get complex. Able and willing. As seen in the last chapter, predicting who is able involves many factors. Who is likely to have a shared future with me? Who is near me? Who is stable? Who has strength or other valuable resources to share? Who can observe my giving? Predicting who is willing is even more complicated. In real life, people use signals to predict the type of relationship. The relationship then defines reciprocity expectations. Answering, "What will this person do?" starts with, who is this person to me? Is the person a loved one, friend, neighbor, stranger, or enemy? This defines reciprocity expectations. In a scale, it might look like this. Helpful reciprocity. At the highest level, loved one, lover, spouse, close family. Then friend, then teammate, colleague, neighbor, community member. Transactional reciprocity. Customer, merchant, stranger. Harmful reciprocity. Competitor, enemy. Relationship signals are reciprocity signals. Move up this scale and sharing increases. Move down and sharing decreases. Then it disappears. Then it turns to warfare. Relationship and giving. Effective fundraising builds higher, helpful reciprocity relationships. These relationships build trust. They support giving. This is nothing new in fundraising advice. The emphasis on love and passion led Dr. Beth Breeze to comment that, quote, "The how to fundraise literature risks being classified as romance if computers ever displace librarians," close quote. It's not a shocking new idea. Relationship works. The fundraising books agree. But there's a problem. As Dr. Breeze explains, quote, "Telling fundraisers to build relationships," Burnett 2002, Burke 2003, "to love their donors," Pittman 2007, and to treat the process like a romantic courtship, Green et al. 2007, page 121, is of limited value without insight or examples of precisely how this can be achieved, close quote. So what exactly do we do? And what do we not do? Let's start with what not to do. Sustainable fundraising requires relationships of helpful reciprocity. We can ruin these relationships by 1. Acting with no reciprocity, or 2. Acting with transactional reciprocity. No reciprocity means no giving. Giving to unrelated others does happen in nature. It can even include giving to those of other species, but these all start with some form of reciprocity. This reciprocity need not be similar in amount, kind, or timing. It can be smaller, different, or much, much later. These are no problem. But without some kind of reciprocity, giving always loses. In nature, giving outside the family without any reciprocity is deadly. It's an unnatural act. When a charity asks donors to give without any signals of reciprocity, It's asking donors to perform an unnatural act. It might have clever advertising, it might have a detailed marketing plan, but underneath it all, it's sending primal messages. It's saying, we're not here to help you, we're not partners, sharing with us is foolish. No marketing plan can overcome those underlying signals. Transactional reciprocity excludes generosity. The next step above no reciprocity is transactional reciprocity. This fits merchant-customer norms. Exchanges are brief and strictly contingent. Any trade must immediately benefit both sides. Such relationships can be beneficial. But here's the problem for fundraising. Transactional relationships don't include generosity. Transactional behavior in anthropology. Across human cultures, whenever a relationship becomes transactional or, quote, strictly contingent, giving stops. Anthropologist Raymond Hames explains, quote, ethnographers studying people as diverse as foragers, Mouse 1967, and Irish smallholders, Arensberg 1959, have long noted that attempts to strictly balance exchanges are tantamount to ending relationships, close quote. This isn't just for people. Zoologist Gerald Carter explains, quote, similar to humans, non-human primates cooperate in a more contingent manner with less bonded partners, close quote. Following transactional norms signals a strictly contingent relationship. It signals the absence of a sharing or helping relationship. It kills generosity. Transactional behavior in the movies. What's so bad about being transactional? The classic 1960 movie, The Apartment, gives an example. A cheating husband is trying to restart an affair with a younger woman. The following scene shows how much of a heel he is. He leaves his family on Christmas Eve to meet her for a rendezvous. He says, I have a present for you. I didn't quite know what to get you. Anyway, it's a little awkward for me, shopping, so here's $100. Go out and buy yourself something. She starts crying, begins to take off her coat, and says, okay, as long as it's paid for. It's a cringe-worthy Hollywood moment. His behavior is transactional. The relationship drops from lovers to merchants selling goods. Making a relationship transactional isn't just a problem in anthropology or Hollywood romance. It's a problem for charities. Transactional behavior in charities. I often share research findings with nonprofit groups. Once I was talking about which words and phrases work best with donors. A frustrated manager interrupted, "But I just want their money. Can't I tell them that?" Of course, that doesn't work. Try selling anything with this line. Suppose you walk into a business. On the wall in bold lettering is their motto, "We just want your money." How would you feel? No business would be this foolish. So how do charity administrators go so wrong? It's an issue of worldview. From their perspective, their relationship with donors is this: we're great, therefore people should give us things. Because we deserve it, because we're so great. Our part in a relationship? Just keep being our fantastic selves. And, oh yes, keep reminding people how wonderful we really are. Have you ever known someone like this? How would you like to be in a relationship with them? If you found yourself in that relationship, how long would you stay? Why do you think donor retention is so low? In this worldview, donors are just an ATM. Helping an ATM makes no sense. It only reduces transactional efficiency. The cheating husband in the apartment explains, "Go out and buy yourself something. They have some nice alligator bags at Bergdorf's." His present is efficient. Transactional norms are efficient, but they contradict sharing relationships. Ultimately, they destroy generosity. One research study analyzed key factors underlying successful major gift asks. The secret? It started with this, quote, "First, they are made within relationships of trust rather than as a result of a transactional approach," close quote. Tiny signals. Even small signals in word choice make a difference. Leading with formal, technical, financial, and contract terms sends a signal. It signals an arm's length, market, strictly contingent relationship. It signals a transactional relationship. In experiments reviewed in other chapters, these signals consistently reduce generosity. Small signals can hurt, but they can also help. They can reflect a helpful relationship. They can even reflect love. In one experiment, solicitors for a muscular dystrophy charity changed the phrase on their T-shirts. Changing from "donating equals helping" to "loving equals helping" increased donations by more than half. An experiment for African famine relief placed donation boxes in 14 bakeries. Changing the headline on the box from either "donating equals helping" or no headline to "donating equals loving" nearly doubled the donations. An experiment for a children's charity changed the shape of the donation box. Changing the box from either round or square to heart-shaped nearly doubled donations. One massive experiment involved 540,000 Alaska residents in a statewide giving campaign. A third received postcards beginning a donation request with "Make Alaska Better for Everyone." These had no impact on giving. Another third instead received postcards beginning with "Warm Your Heart." These people were 6.6% more likely to give. They also gave 23% more money. Signals, even small ones, indicate the relationship. The relationship defines giving norms. Signaling transactional relationships undermines generosity. Signaling emotional relationships supports generosity. Let's get practical. We've looked at relationship concepts. We've looked at what not to do. But how precisely do we build these relationships? In the next chapter, we'll look at several practical examples. We'll see how it's actually done in the real world. And we'll see how one simple strategy underlies it all. Chapter 5. Primal fundraising leads with a gift. I'm with them because I'm important to them. Lead with a gift. The primal giving game. Biologists model sustainable giving in nature with a game. This primal giving game models reciprocal altruism. What's the best strategy in this game? To answer this question, one professor held an international computer gaming tournament. With many rounds and many players, strategies got complicated. How complicated? He explains, quote, "An example is one which, on each move, models the behavior of the other player as a Markov process, and then uses Bayesian inference to select what seems the best choice for the long run," close quote. So, what worked? When, as in nature, winners replicate and losers don't, this complexity disappeared. 1 strategy always won. Lead with a gift, then act reciprocally. This result attracted a lot of attention, so another, much larger tournament was held. The winner? Same answer. Every alternative, no matter how complex, eventually lost to this simple strategy. Another version of the game added a twist. It allowed for miscommunication. Sometimes sharing was reported as not sharing. In this version, a new winning strategy emerged. Lead with 2 gifts, then act reciprocally. To play the game yourself, go to https://ncase.me/trust/. Lead with a gift. Back to relationships. So how does game theory apply to real-world fundraising? Start with this. 1. Go see donors. 2. Bring a gift. When bringing a gift, make sure it's a good one. What does that mean? A good gift signals a helpful reciprocity relationship. These relationships are personal. They encourage generosity. Transactional relationships are different. They aren't personal. They don't include generosity. A good gift says several things. This is not transactional. This is personal. I care enough to know what you like. I want to make you happy. Not all gifts are good. Cash rarely works. It's transactional, not personal. In experiments, cash benefits can actually reduce giving. A gift given as an explicit trade is not a gift. It's a transaction. In experiments, these strictly contingent gifts can also reduce giving. A financially costly gift can be risky. It can send financial or transactional signals. It can trigger unwanted feelings of financial obligation. For charities, it can also feel wasteful. But a gift can be valuable without feeling costly. This is because in a social context, cost means extra cost. Consider the same gift with different extra cost. Social gift. I own a condo on Padre Island. It's empty during spring break. You can use it as my gift to you. Awkward gift. I went on Airbnb and rented a condo for you on Padre Island during spring break. You can use it as my gift to you. The gift value is identical, but in one case, it feels uncomfortable. In the other, it doesn't. The difference is the extra cost. Lead with a gift, a simple fundraising example. Games and theory are fine, but let's get practical. What actually works in fundraising? When I first became a college president, I wanted to know the answer. I started by looking at schools with our same religious affiliation. Usually, age, endowment, alumni, and tuition predict contributions, and this was true for our schools too, except for one. One small school was raising money out of all proportion to its size. It had only 1 or 2 frontline fundraisers. Although located in rural Tennessee, it received major gifts from across the country. I had to find out why. So I went there to see what was going on. The longtime fundraiser explained his unique approach. He had a disabling condition. Sometimes he had bad days when he couldn't work. There was no way to predict when this would strike. So he couldn't do the one thing that all other fundraisers do. He couldn't reliably keep appointments. Here was his solution. He would fly to a location with a list of donors in the area. He would drive to the first house. He would knock on the door. If the donor were home, he would hold out his card, introduce himself, and say, "Since I was in the area visiting other friends of the school, the president asked if I would drop off this small gift to thank you for your years of support." If the donor was busy, this took no more than a minute of their day. But here's the reality. He was always invited in. During the visit, he learned about the donor's history with the school. He updated them on the latest happenings. Because this was a religious school, he would ask about their lives and ask to pray with them. The meeting ended by leaving behind a request from the president to consider a specific gift. But this always came with an explanation that no decision should be made on that day. These little meetings became more powerful because he returned every year. He knew their lives, their families, their connections, and their charitable passions. If the donor weren't home, he would simply leave the gift with a personal handwritten note. He explained to me, "I see more donors than any 5 fundraisers I know. The reason is simple: no dead time. If a meeting runs long or short or the donor isn't home, it doesn't matter. As soon as it's done, I drive to the next home." Harold Seymour recounts another old-school example of door knocking. American Cancer Society canvassers began, quote, "Good afternoon. I have here your copy of Cancer's 7 Danger Signals. May I come in?" The point isn't that these are universal solutions for fundraising. The point is that these achieved 1. Go see donors. 2. Bring a gift. And they worked. Game theory: able and willing to reciprocate. This strategy matches the game. First, consider the previous chapter on capacity for reciprocity. Do personal visits change the predicted frequency of future meetings? Yes. Mentioning other friends of the school in the area fits too. How can a charity in rural Tennessee become a neighbor to a donor in California? It visits. It visits every year. It reminds donors that other community members are nearby as well. Next, consider reciprocity signals. The visit leads with a gift. The gift is delivered personally. It's presented as not financially costly. I was already in the area visiting others. The visit emphasizes personal connections. It includes appreciative inquiry and listening. Every piece signals a personal, social relationship. Although a gift request is left behind, the response is purposely postponed. This prevents any transactional ending to the visit. It keeps things social. Lead with a gift, a big fundraising example. So, that's cute, but maybe what works for a tiny little religious school doesn't apply to you. Okay, how about a big, prestigious university? NYU went from near bankruptcy, raising only about $20 million per year, to completing the nation's first billion-dollar campaign. Naomi Levin explains how it happened in her book. In it, she describes her process of working with the prospect. The purpose of the first meeting, usually a breakfast, was to ask for their advice on some university policy. The conversation would uncover their connections or interest with different university programs. The goal was to schedule a campus visit. At this campus visit, the prospect would take a tour, have lunch with the president, and visit with faculty in areas of interest. The next goal was to then involve them in some aspect of the university. Levin explains, quote, "If there was going to be a concert or film festival at the Tisch School of the Arts, we would invite them to that. If there was a seminar at the law school, we would invite them to that. If we had an advisory committee on filmmaking, we would, if appropriate, invite them to sit on that committee." Close quote. This all took place well before any donation request. She explains, the quicker you ask, the less money you will receive. Game theory, willing to reciprocate. Consider how this series of experiences builds the right relationship. The charity signals that the donor is valued. We need your advice. It leads with social gifts. Have lunch at our place. Take a tour. Meet the president. It follows with a personally meaningful experience. The lecture, concert, or advisory committee is carefully selected to match their interests. This gift shows we care enough to know what you like. This process repeatedly signals a helpful reciprocity social relationship. The prospect gives socially. He gives advice and participates. He receives socially. He receives honor, events, meals, and experiences. This sharing exchange is always non-transactional. The gifts are not presented as financially costly. The extra cost of inviting this person to an event is minimal. The process is far removed from any financial donation request. Game theory, able to reciprocate. Giving in the primal game has an unbreakable law. Giving must be seen by partners who are able and willing to reciprocate. The previous social signals help build relationship. They suggest a willingness to reciprocate. What about the ability to reciprocate? The tour and experiences help here as well. They display the university's attractive features. But reciprocity goes further. It can come not only from the nonprofit, but also from a supporting community. How does this work? At these meetings with prospects, the fundraiser rarely went alone. Levin explains, quote, if a person was in real estate, we would discuss what real estate person should meet with him. If he was in insurance or finance, we would think of people who we felt were his peers and someone that he would respect. During the 20 years that Larry Tisch, a billionaire owner of CBS Television, was chairman, he joined most of these meetings, close quote. Notice how the process created a supportive audience with enormous capacity. This wasn't just the wealthy charity itself, displayed during the tour. It was also important professional neighbors. It was even a recognized billionaire. All of these pieces work together to signal ability and willingness for reciprocity. What's the point? These stories show practical examples of strategies that worked. Some worked for small charities. Others worked for large ones. The point isn't that any approach is the universal solution for fundraising. The point is that the primal game matches reality, sending signals that giving will be seen by partners who are able and willing to reciprocate works. Leading with a gift is a great signal of reciprocity. And it works. Postscript. Special events. A practical application of the game. Understanding the primal giving game provides guidance. It can help answer practical questions. Let's look at a contentious one. Are special events a good idea in fundraising? Some people love them. Some people loathe them. So, who's right? The first problem is definitions. There are two types of fundraising events. An event can lead with a gift, or it can lead with a transaction. Special events, leading with a gift. A personal invitation to an attractive event can be effective if it's a gift. It can signal a social, helpful reciprocity relationship if it's a gift. It can connect a donor with meaningful parts of the charity. It can provide recognition, honor, and gratitude after a donation. It can build a donor community that supports future donations. It can do these things if it's a gift. These events aren't transactional. They are a gift to attendees. The cost is paid by the charity or a donor. Because they aren't profitable, these events can't be the end goal. And that's a good thing. This shows that the important work is not just the event. The important work is the whole fundraising process. Special events, leading with a transaction. Transactional events are different. They charge fees, provide a service, and generate revenue. They can make a profit. The profit can help the charity. Transactional events are easy to sell. The event timing creates a deadline. This helps motivate sales requests. People with no idea how to fundraise can sell event tickets or table sponsorships. These are just consumer products with a charitable hue. Administrators like these events. They provide an immediate quid pro quo return. And that's the problem. Even when these work, they work only transactionally. Just a bit more income than cost is a success. One group of researchers noted, quote, "Special events are generally accepted to be the least cost-effective way for nonprofits to raise revenue," close quote. Compared to actual fundraising, special event sales are inefficient. Some accounting professors have even found charities that hide these inefficient numbers. Charities move these barely profitable events into separate entities. This protects the charity's own efficiency ratings. Transactional events versus social relationships. But don't such events lead to great relationships and later donations? Not really. Instead, they signal a completed, transactional relationship. Think about it. Suppose a new work colleague says to you, "The wife and I are hosting a big New Year's Eve party. We'll have great food and drinks and even a local band. We would love to have you come." How do you feel? What does this signal about your relationship? Then he adds, "Tickets are $75. You can buy in advance or pay at the door." Now, how do you feel? How does this change the signal about your relationship? Research supports this feeling about transactional events. One study used in-depth qualitative interviews. It examined a, quote, "successful and well-run" money-making charity event. It found that the event, quote, "had little effect on participants' relationship with the charity," close quote. Another study looked at over 10,000 nonprofit tax returns. It found that increasing revenue from special events had almost no impact on later donations. In fact, increasing operations revenue, people paying for the nonprofit services, actually worked better. This created more than twice as much donations growth as increasing special events revenue did. These transactional events don't help fundraising. There's another problem. They have a hidden cost. They can strain staff resources. Worse, they can be an attractive distraction for fundraisers. Event work is urgent. People are coming, and it's relatively easy. Don't believe me? Advertise for an entry-level event coordinator or fundraiser with identical pay. Compare the response. But urgent and easy doesn't mean it's important. It doesn't mean it helps with real fundraising. And the answer is, it depends. This mixed reality of special events matches theory and research. It also matches the wisdom of experience. As Naomi Levin explains, her feelings could be negative. Quote, Most special events, especially dinners and galas, were not cost-effective. In addition, the details of any dinner or gala are tremendous and also require a great deal of staff time, close quote. Or they could be neutral. Quote, if the event is used as a way of soliciting gifts prior to the dinner, or if the dinner is sponsored by an organization or person, then it might be viewed as worth the amount of time, effort, and costs involved, close quote. Or they could be very positive. This happened with an award dinner recognizing top donors because, quote, donors enjoy such rewards and deserve it, close quote. These mixed feelings match the game. Sold events signal a transactional relationship. They produce, at best, small transactional wins. Gifted events signal a personal, helpful relationship. They can deliver recognition and gratitude. This can produce transformational wins. Conclusion. Leading with a transaction can be a way to earn an immediate profit, but it's not a good way to encourage generosity. Leading with a gift won't earn an immediate profit, but it is a great way to encourage generosity. This winning first step is the same in the game and in the real world. Leading with a gift works. In both the Primal giving game and in modern fundraising, the answer is the same. 1. Go see donors. 2. Bring a gift. Chapter 6. Impact, Gratitude, and Reciprocity in Primal Fundraising. I can make a difference. The one big thing in fundraising is this: advance the donor's hero story. The previous book in this series explored this in detail. The universal hero story, monomyth, progresses through 4 steps. Original identity, links to challenge, links to victory, links to enhanced identity. The compelling donation experience includes these same steps. It starts by connecting with identity. This can come from the following. 1. I am like them. This is subjective similarity. 2. I am with them. This is reciprocal alliances. Biologists model reciprocal altruism with a game. This primal giving game can include simple alliances, but the game can do more. It can also include challenge and victory. It can include enhanced identity. It can include similarity and even heroism. But all this requires leveling up the simple game. Impact. In the simplest primal giving game, impact is fixed, and it's identical. 2 unrelated players face the same payoffs. Each must choose before knowing what the other will do. However, payback is possible because players can meet again. The payoffs are these. I don't give and they don't give. We each get 1 point. I give and they also give. We each get 2 points. I give and they don't give. I get 0 points. They get 3. I don't give and they do give. I get 3 points. They get 0. Giving is costly, but it helps the other player more than it costs. If I give 1 point, the other player gains 2. Now suppose the impact of my gift changes. The payoffs might instead become these. I don't give and they don't give. We each get 1 point. I give and they give. I get 2 points. They get 22. I give and they don't give. I get 0 points, and they get 23. I don't give and they give. I get 3 points. They get 0. Now my gift has a higher impact. If I give 1 point, the other player gets 22 points. This might come from low cost. The gift costs me $1, but a matching grant means the recipient gets $22. Or it might come from high need. The recipient's benefit from $1 is 22 times my benefit from $1. How might this change, alter gameplay? Impact and gratitude. Impact is great, but in the game, or in nature, why would unrelated players even care? Let's go back to the first law. In the Primal game, giving has an unbreakable law. Giving must be seen by partners who are able and willing to reciprocate. Impact matters because it can lead to gratitude. Gratitude matters because it can lead to reciprocity. Impact leads to gratitude, leads to willingness to return a favor. A person expressing gratitude sends a signal. Gratitude signals their view of the impact of the gift, the value of the relationship, and their willingness to reciprocate. This gameplay matches experimental research. Increasing impact works in donation experiments. Increasing gratitude does too. Both work by supporting reciprocal social relationships. Impact encourages giving. Now consider the opposite. Suppose my gift has no impact. Payoffs become these. I don't give and they don't give. I get 1 point, they get 1 point. I give and they don't give. I get 0 points, they get 1 point. I don't give and they give. I get 3 points, they get 0. I give and they give. I get 2 points, they get 0. Now, there is no reason to expect gratitude. In this game, my gift makes no impact. It does nothing to justify reciprocity. This gift makes no sense. The hidden impact problem. What if I'm not sure of the other player's payoff? I see the payoffs as these. I don't give and they don't give. I get 1 point, they get question mark. I give and they don't give. I get 0 points and they get question mark. I don't give and they give. I get 3 points and they get question mark. I give and they give. I get 2 points and they get question mark. Should I give or not? It's hard to know. There isn't enough information. But with multiple rounds, I could test with a small gift. Suppose I make a test gift and get silence. This signals no impact. It signals no willingness for reciprocity. Playing this game with this player makes no sense. Suppose I make a test gift and get a report of impact and a meaningful expression of gratitude. I've learned something about the other player's payoff. I've also received a reciprocity signal. Playing this game with this player does make sense. The pro forma response. Not every response is meaningful. A thank you can be powerful, but only if it signals gameplay. In the game, expressing desire for a social, helpful reciprocity relationship is meaningful. Why? Because it signals gameplay. Not all gift responses do this. Suppose I get a receipt that's just stamped thank you. Or maybe only months later a thank you call comes, but it's not from the charity. It's from an outside telemarketing firm. The caller says things like, "This call may be monitored or recorded for quality assurance, and if you have any questions regarding your donation, please call member services." Do these signal a social, helpful reciprocity relationship? Probably not. Do these reveal information about my gift's impact? Probably not. These don't work in the game. So it's no surprise that testing finds they don't work in real-world fundraising either. The new donor problem. The hidden impact problem in the game often matches the new donor experience. They get a request, but they aren't sure about the outcomes, so they make a test gift. How well do charities manage this hidden impact problem? Not well. About 70% of first-time donors to a charity never give to that charity again. The game suggests why they are failing. Authentic signals of gift impact and gratitude work. Silence doesn't. How well does game theory match reality? In one large study, lapsed donors explained why they quit giving. The top 3 reasons related to the charity were these. Quote, I feel that other causes are more deserving. Impact. They, quote, did not acknowledge my support. Gratitude. They, quote, did not inform me how my money had been used. Impact. In the Primal game, impact is important. Gratitude is important. Without these, game strategy says, play with someone else. In fundraising, the same rules apply. Impact versus reciprocity. The false gratitude problem. Gratitude reflects willingness to return a favor, unless the signal is false. Suppose the other player expresses gratitude, but later, when they could easily return a favor, they don't. The reciprocity signal was fake. Gratitude signaled future gameplay, but it was a false signal. That's how the game works. What about the real world? What happens when reciprocity fails? One study of over 500,000 donations to a public university gave an answer. If the university failed to admit a donor's child, the donor quit giving. Logically, this shouldn't have happened. Donors knew that donations were not part of the admissions process, but the emotion is hard to overcome. The university had a chance to help, and it didn't. The relationship is broken. Only a fool gives to a player who won't return a favor. Impact versus reciprocity. The charity crisis problem. The game is about predicting ability and willingness to return a favor. Impact can help by signaling higher willingness to return a favor, unless it also signals lower ability to return a favor. A charity may find that an organizational crisis appeal works. The charity is in trouble. The need is desperate. The gift will make a big impact. The appeal raises quick cash. But this also cannibalizes the future large gift. It signals that the charity is unstable. This is now a less trustworthy player. They might leave the game anytime. Stable charities attract major gifts. Unstable charities don't. The conflict disappears if the crisis is not an organizational crisis. A stable charity can appeal on behalf of others in need. This doesn't suggest that the charity is at risk. This is a crisis. But it's not an organizational crisis. The conflict also disappears if the charity faces an opportunity rather than a crisis. The gift still makes a big impact, but the charity isn't signaling instability. Impact versus reciprocity. Weird results. Impact is important, but in the game, it's important only as a reciprocity signal. Understanding this helps to explain some weird results. In experiments, describing another player as needy increases giving to them. Unless the other player had already shared money with the potential donor in a previous round. In that case, donors still give a lot, but they give the same regardless of need. The researchers explained, quote, when the stranger is very willing to sacrifice to help the potential donor, their need does not appear to matter, close quote. Need can signal reciprocity willingness, but actual reciprocity behavior makes the signal redundant. The signal no longer matters. Impact versus reciprocity. Matching gift versus lead gift. Reciprocity signals also help to explain the unusual power of lead gifts. This simple game matches funding for a shared project, such as a neighborhood park. The project benefits the group, but there's always a temptation not to give, hoping that others will take care of it. How can a donor make a large gift in a way that encourages others to give too? One approach is to promise a matching gift. A donor commits that for every dollar another donor gives, he will match it with his own gift. The impact of the other donor's gift is doubled. This works. A different approach is to make a lead gift. A donor simply announces his large gift to help fund the project. Here's the weird thing. This also works. In fact, an announcement of a lead gift works better than an announcement of a matching gift of the same size. This is true in both real-world fundraising and lab experiments. What's going on? The promise of a match can help, but it creates no reciprocity obligation. It's contingent. It says, if you don't give, I won't either. The lead gift is different. I lead with a gift that helps you or something you care about. I give hoping for your response. If you don't give, you violate reciprocity norms. I gave. You left me holding the bag. Everyone can see that you are a bad partner. The promise of a match helps, but it sends a contingent signal. A lead gift helps more. It sends a stronger signal, adding similarity to the game. So far, the game has included only unrelated players. In that version, I care about the other player only to the extent that it affects me. Things change if I feel that the other player is like me. This returns us to Hamilton's simple math. I give when my cost is less than their benefit multiplied by our similarity. In the original game, both players faced these payoffs. Suppose they don't give. If I don't give, we each get 1 point. If I do give, I get 0 points and they get 3. Suppose they do give. If I also give, we each get 2 points. If I don't give, I get 3 points, they get 0. Now suppose I treat the other player as a brother. This equates to 50% similarity. Based on Hamilton's genetic math, I now count 50% of their benefit. My payoffs change to these. Suppose they don't give. If I give, I get 1.5 points. My 0 plus 50% of their 3. They get 3 points. Suppose I don't give. I get 1.5 points. My 1 point plus 50% of their 1 point. They get 1 point. Or suppose they give. If I give, I get 3 points. My 2 points plus 50% of their 2 points. They get 2 points. Or suppose I don't give. I also still get 3 points. My 3 points plus 50% of their 0 points. They get 0 points. Before, giving was costly for me. Now it's not. But it still makes the world a better place. More giving still means more total points. Adding similarity makes giving more attractive. It also makes impact more important. With unrelated players, impact is important only indirectly. It affects the game only through reciprocity. But with related players, it also has a direct effect. It directly benefits someone who is like me. Conclusion. Compelling fundraising story starts with identity. It starts by identifying with another. Identifying with others can come from 2 sources. 1, I am like them. This is subjective similarity. 2, I am with them. This is reciprocal alliances. In natural selection, giving has the same 2 origins, similarity and reciprocal alliances. The expanded game models both. We've taken a deep dive into natural selection principles. We've come back with story principles. The biologist game and the storyteller's game start at the same place. They start with identity. But for transformational gifts, we need to level up the game once more. It's time to move beyond the natural origins of the donation. It's time to explore the natural origins of the heroic donation. The next chapter looks at this. Chapter 7, Heroic Donation Displays in Primal Fundraising. I can be your hero, baby. Something's missing. You might have noticed the last few chapters played the primal giving game, but they didn't focus on heroes. Now it's time to get back to the one big thing in fundraising: advance the donor's hero story. The heroic donation is an ideal. It's an extreme form of philanthropy. The principles from the primal giving game can still apply, but the game must change. It must become more extreme. Extreme outcomes. Suppose I am player 1 with these payoffs. Player 1 gives and player 2 doesn't give. Player 1 gets minus 100 points. Player 2 gets 25 points. Player 1 gives and player 2 gives for the rest of his life. Player 1 gets minus 50 points. Player 2 gets 0 points. Or player 1 doesn't give and player 2 doesn't give. Player 1 gets 0 points. Player 2 gets negative infinity points. Player 1 doesn't give and player 2 gives for the rest of his life. Player 1 still gets 0 points and player 2 still gets negative infinity points. My gift has a high impact. If I don't give, the other player gets negative infinity points. He dies. But my gift is costly. Reciprocity is possible, but it can't justify the gift. Even with the other player's lifetime of return giving, my result is still negative. Here, the gift costs 100 points. We might interact 25 more times. Each time, he might benefit me 2 points, but 25 times 2 is only 50. 50 points is still less than the 100-point cost of the gift. In this game, there is only one rational move for me. Don't give. A new problem. Now suppose we each face 50-50 odds of being either player 1 or player 2. Still, if player 1 acts rationally, he won't give. Whoever ends up as player 2 will die. Is there a better alternative? Yes. We could make a mutual insurance pact. We could both agree to give in a time of crisis. We could agree to support the other in an emergency, even if it were personally harmful. We would both survive. Here's the problem. No courts enforce these agreements. At the crisis point, giving is always a bad idea. Cheating is always the logical choice. This isn't just a dilemma in the game. It's a key issue in natural selection. A new solution. In the primal world, survival often depended on a special type of reciprocity. This was not the transactional reciprocity of market exchange. This was friendship reciprocity. It was used only among close friends and family. Friendship reciprocity was mutual insurance. In time of need, a friend would help. This happened even if the help could never be fully paid back. This reciprocity was untransactional. Transactional reciprocity was fine. If you were rich and times were good, it might be all you need. But if everything fell apart, only friendship insurance could save you. Professors John Tooby and Lita Cosmides explain, quote, "For hunter-gatherers, illness, injury, bad luck in foraging, or the inability to resist an attack by social antagonists would all have been frequent reversals of fortune with a major selective impact. The ability to attract assistance during such threatening reversals in welfare, where the absence of help might be deadly, may well have had far more significant selective consequences than the ability to cultivate social exchange relationships that promote marginal increases in returns during times when one is healthy, safe, and well-fed." Close quote. Losing the transactional reciprocity game was annoying. Losing the friendship reciprocity game was deadly. The problem with the solution. So, the solution is simple, right? Just have as many friendship insurance relationships as possible. No, that doesn't work. The first problem is cost. Friendship insurance is mutual insurance. Getting unconditional help in a crisis is great, but giving it is costly. The second problem is trustworthiness. Friendship reciprocity with someone who was able and willing to deliver in a crisis was critical to survival. Friendship reciprocity with someone who, at the moment of crisis, couldn't or wouldn't deliver, that was costly and sometimes deadly. Tooby and Cosmides explain, quote, "Although receiving the benefits of friendship reciprocity was critical, fulfilling the obligations of this mutual insurance was costly. Thus, maintaining successful friendships by projecting oneself and accurately ascertaining a partner as a valuable and true friend rather than a fair-weather friend in advance of a crisis was an important and difficult task central to survival probability." Close quote. Separating powerful, true friends from weak or fair-weather friends meant life or death. But how could you tell the difference in advance of a crisis? And how could you convince others which kind of friend you would be in a crisis? Heroism to the rescue. Heroism solves this problem. Heroism signals trustworthiness for a mutual insurance partner. In a crisis, a hero will save you. A hero is able and willing to deliver transactionally unjustified protection in a time of crisis or need. Heroism must be sacrificial. A sacrificial act signals willingness to protect in a crisis. It signals willingness without transactional justification. If the act is not risky or costly, it doesn't do this. If it's self-interested or transactional, it sends the opposite signal. Sacrifice signals willingness to be a reliable friendship insurance partner. Heroism must actually protect. Attempting but failing to protect another might signal willingness, but it doesn't signal ability to protect in a crisis. Only a successful protector displays true friendship insurance reliability. Heroic philanthropy. A hero displays sacrificial protection. A heroic donation is this: a sacrificial gift that protects the donor's people or values in a crisis. It includes the hero's journey steps. A sacrificial gift in a crisis is the challenge. A sacrificial gift in a crisis that protects is a victory. A sacrificial gift in a crisis that protects the donor's people and values links to identity. Heroic philanthropy in a crisis. Heroism signals trustworthiness as a friendship insurance partner. It shows reliability in a crisis. This is easy to demonstrate when there is real peril. But in a safe, modern world, such extreme circumstances are rare. What else can work? In some cases, philanthropy can. It can show the ability and willingness to deliver transactionally unjustified help. In the right circumstances, it can do more. It can show this in an extreme or crisis setting. Heroic philanthropy in experiments. Sacrifice. Suppose a charity could offer one of two ways to donate. One way is safe and easy. The other requires pain and effort. Logically, the first option will work better, right? Not necessarily. In one study, people received money they could anonymously keep or share with the group. Any donated funds were doubled. However, for some people, donating required a painful task. It required keeping both hands submerged in painfully frigid water for 60 seconds. The result? Those in the painful donation situation gave significantly more money. They were more than twice as likely to donate all their money. Mathematically, this makes no sense. Adding pain to a donation should not result in more donations. But by the logic of heroism, this makes perfect sense. The painful contribution scenario created an opportunity for heroic donations. Giving everything matched the heroic opportunity. No surprise then, these 100% donations increased the most. In another experiment, people could also donate to a charity and have their donation matched. For some, donating required attending a charity picnic. This was the easy, enjoyable condition. Others, instead, would have to complete a 5-mile run. This was the painful effort condition. The result? People in the painful effort condition offered to donate 3 times as much as those in the easy, enjoyable condition. Again, requiring painful effort for the donation increased giving. But there was a way to make this effect disappear. When experimenters offered both options at the same time, almost no one chose the painful effort option. The researchers explained, quote, "The presence of an easy alternative for donating, the picnic, stripped away the meaningfulness of the painful effort contribution process, the 5-mile run," close quote. When the painful effort donation was the only way to give, it created the opportunity for a heroic donation. But when the painful effort became unnecessary, it was no longer heroic. It was pointless. It became meaningless. The opportunity for heroism vanished. Heroic philanthropy in experiments. Protection. Heroism must be sacrificial, but it must also protect. It must defend from a threat. This is different than helping those who aren't in peril. This difference shows up in experiments. In one, donors would have their gift matched. For some, donating required attending a picnic. For others, it required a 30-hour fast. When the cause was famine relief, the results were as before. Those assigned to the painful effort condition offered to donate twice as much. However, this effect reversed when the cause changed. Instead of helping those in peril, famine relief, the cause was changed to building a park. Now, donations were lower in the painful effort condition. The heroism effect disappeared. A park is nice, but it isn't protecting anyone from peril. It provides no potential for a great victory. A gift might still be sacrificial, but it isn't heroic. In heroic philanthropy, the type of charitable project matters. Painful effort giving didn't work well for a new park, but it worked great whenever the cause protected others in peril. It worked when the cause was tsunami victims, Hurricane Katrina victims, victims of war and genocide, or starving children. A heroic gift displays both sacrifice and protection. Heroic philanthropy needs both parts. When the donation opportunity provides both parts, required sacrifice plus protector role, donations are higher. When it is missing either part, pointless sacrifice or non-protector role, donations are lower. Real-world fundraising. Adding extreme circumstances to donations that protect others in peril works in the lab. But this isn't just a matter of lab experiments. It shows up in real-world fundraising. The Ice Bucket Challenge raised more than $115 million for the ALS Association. World Vision's 30-hour famine, requiring extended fasting, has raised over $170 million. Charity runs are ubiquitous. But torturing your donors is not the point. Unless you're into that. In that case, some fundraising events even require walking barefoot on burning coals or broken glass. The point is that the behavior gives insight into core donor motivations. Heroic donation opportunities can be compelling, but it helps to know why. Knowing why shows the underlying rules. Knowing the rules helps. It helps in small gift lab experiments. It helps in small gift fundraising events. The next chapter looks at how it helps in major transformational gifts. Chapter 8. The Heroic Donation Audience in Primal Fundraising. I need a hero. Biologists model sustainable giving in nature with a simple game. The heroic donation comes from an extreme version of this game, the numbers game. In the extreme version, two players each risk becoming either player 1 or player 2. The payoffs are these. Player 1 gives, player 2 doesn't give. Player 1 gets minus 100 points. Player 2 gets 25 points. Player 1 gives and player 2 gives for the rest of his life. Player 1 gets minus 50 points. Player 2 gets 0. Player 1 doesn't give and player 2 doesn't give. Player 1 gets 0 points. Player 2 gets minus infinity points. Player 1 doesn't give and player 2 gives for the rest of his life. The same result. Player 1 gets 0 points. Player 2 gets negative infinity points. Each player faces the chance either to save player 1 or to be saved player 2. But saving the other player means taking an unrecoverable loss. If players choose rationally, player 1 won't give. Player 2 will die. One of the players will be player 2. So, one of them will die. There is an alternative. Both players could agree to a mutual insurance pact. This is called friendship reciprocity. Both agree to deliver transactionally unjustified aid in a time of crisis. Both players would survive. But there is a problem. At the time of need, there is no way to enforce the agreement. At the point of crisis, giving is irrational. It's a losing move. Thus, picking the right friend is both critical and difficult. The simple game has an unbreakable law. Giving must be seen by partners who are able and willing to reciprocate. In the extreme game, the law still applies, but now potential partners are those who are able and willing to save in a crisis. They are willing to do so even when it's sacrificial. Simple reciprocity no longer works. Only friendship reciprocity can help. The natural game. The game models the natural world. In the natural world, friendship reciprocity relationships are critical to survival, but they are tricky. The dilemma is this. Having a reliable friend is valuable. Having a fair weather friend is not. Being a reliable friend is expensive. Being a fair weather friend is not. Picking a fair weather friend means when the crisis comes, you die. Picking a loyal but powerless friend has the same result. Being a fair weather friend isn't costly, but actually saving a friend means taking a permanent loss. This dilemma leads to strategies. It leads to natural rules for picking mutual insurance partners. Professors Tooby and Cosmides originated the evolutionary theory of friendship reciprocity. They write that the evolutionarily optimal selection of friends depends on the following. 1. Number of friendship slots already filled. 2. Who emits positive externalities. 3. Who is good at reading your mind. 4. Who considers you irreplaceable. 5. Who wants the same things you want. These factors reflect a close, mutually beneficial relationship. They show who is valuable to you. They show who is invested in you. They show who is with you. These factors also reflect emotional bonding. This bonding distinguishes a fair-weather friend from a reliable friend. At the moment of crisis, a fair-weather friend acts rationally. A reliable friend acts emotionally. The fundraising game. A charity can structure giving opportunities to allow heroic displays. A donor can be seen to sacrificially protect his people or values. He can even do it in an extreme setting. This can signal reliability as a friendship insurance partner. A charity can do more. It can build a community of powerful friends. This creates an ideal audience for a heroic display. Even more, a charity can act as a reliable friend. It can become an ideal audience for a heroic display. But how? How can a charity become an attractive friend? The answer starts with the evolutionarily optimal factors. These can also apply to the charity. Does the charity, 1, fit with the donor's other charity relationships? In other words, number of friendship slots already filled. 2, provide access to valuable relationships or benefits. In other words, emits positive externalities. 3, understand the donor's values and preferences. In other words, good at reading your mind. 4, value the donor personally. In other words, considers you irreplaceable. 5, share the donor's goals and values. In other words, wants the same things you want. Answer no to any of these questions, and a major gift is unlikely. Of course, these evolutionary theorists weren't writing about major gifts fundraising, but the rules of the game still apply. A simple example. One fundraiser for a law school shared this story. I heard that one of our donors was in the hospital, so I stopped by just to visit. He joked about me hoping to collect on the estate gift. But ever since that meeting, our relationship completely changed. He has been much more strongly connected to the school. That little visit made a huge impact. Can visiting a donor in the hospital work? Theory says yes. Showing support during a time of need signals friendship insurance reliability. In a primitive context, this timing is key. It is precisely when fair-weather friends will vanish. Anthropologists explain, quote, individuals who are sensitive to current probability payoffs have incentive to renege on exchange commitments to a disabled exchange partner when they are most in need. Prolonged injury or illness renders an individual incapable of reciprocating at a time when he or she is most in need of investment. Close quote. Showing solidarity is nice, but showing solidarity during a time of need is more meaningful. It helps separate true friends from fair-weather friends. A simple answer. Signals of helpful social-emotional relationships encourage generosity. Signals of transactional relationships don't. We can see this in game theory. We can also see it in evolutionary theory. But a fundraiser can get the same answers without math or biology. Just ask, What would a good friend do? This simple question is powerful. Should I actually visit donors? Answer. What would a good friend do? Question. Should I call? Answer. What would a good friend do? Question. Should I write a personal note? Answer. What would a good friend do? Question. It's so cheap to just spam the donor's inbox. Should I do that? Answer. What would a good friend do? What are successful major gifts fundraisers like? Theory predicts it. Research confirms it. They tend to excel at friendship-related skills. Dr. Beth Breeze studied personal skills in fundraising. Her 3-year research project found the most important factors. These included high emotional intelligence, an ability to read people, a great memory for faces, names, and personal details, a tendency to engage with people, even outside their job, and a love of reading, particularly popular psychology books. Experience confirms this too. Naomi Levin led America's first billion-dollar fundraising campaign. She describes the successful fundraisers behind it. They, quote, had to be interesting, well-read people so that donors would enjoy talking and relating to them. For fundraising is not primarily about asking people for money. It is the cultivation of people. It is developing relationships. Close quote. Time and behavior. Building charity friendship alliances takes time. Case suggests donor cultivation of 2 or 3 years before making a major gift request. If this were just a transaction, such a time commitment would make no sense. No one needs 3 years to gather transactional data. But these major gifts are not simple economic transactions. Again, Levin explains, quote, when you sit down with someone and try to develop a relationship, you can't just say, oh, Mrs. Jones, would you give me $100 million? That's not the way it works. It's a slow process. The quicker you ask, the less you get. Developing relationships and trust often takes a long time. Close quote. Of course, developing such relationships is not just a matter of waiting for time to pass. The charity must actually behave as a friend. It must signal that it is able and willing to act as a reliable friend. At the moment of crisis, cheating is the rational choice. Friendship reciprocity is a bet. It is a bet that a friend will behave non-rationally. Signaling a close, personal, emotional relationship builds friendship alliances. Signaling a dispassionate, formal, detached relationship kills them. The heroic donation audience. The crucial relationship can be with the charity, but it can also be with other supporters. They can be potentially valuable friends. They can be the key audience for the heroic gift. Levin explains, quote, fundraisers can't go out on their own and raise the money. Who did I know? Did I know all the affluent people in New York City? Obviously not. The board gave me names. They made suggestions. They were not going to give to me. Obviously, they were going to give to people with whom they had a relationship. Peers are important. A board gives you such relationships. Close quote. High-capacity fellow donors make an ideal audience for heroic donation displays. Such an audience encourages transformational gifts. The one big thing. The one big thing in fundraising is still the same. Advance the donor's hero story. The natural origins of heroism and the heroic donation come from friendship reciprocity. The heroic donation displays friendship insurance reliability, but this display is pointless without the right audience. It requires an audience of potentially valuable friends. It requires an audience with the ability and willingness to save in a crisis. The charity can build this audience of reliable partners. It can also act as a reliable partner. This creates an environment that supports the heroic donation. This helps to advance the donor's hero story. Postscript. What about friends with benefits? A hero is a sacrificial protector. A heroic gift demonstrates sacrificial protection. This signals attractiveness as a mutual insurance partner. Does this attractiveness extend to romantic partnerships? In one experiment, women rated the attractiveness of different men, but they didn't get pictures. Instead, they got only behavioral descriptions of the men. The result? Women generally preferred altruists for friendships and long-term relationships, but that wasn't enough. They reserved the highest attractiveness ratings for men showing heroic altruism. The ideal combination was, quote, dependably brave and altruistic. Consider this in terms of mutual insurance. Such men could be predicted, dependably, to deliver transactionally unjustified aid, altruistic, in a crisis, brave. In the 1980s, Bonnie Taylor sang, "I Need a Hero." Apparently, others share her feelings. Men also seem to respond to this. In one experiment, heterosexual men donated twice as much to charity when observed by a woman rather than by a man. Still, the best display is not just altruism, but heroic altruism. Thus, reading a romantic scenario significantly increased men's willingness to engage in heroic helping. For example, they indicated greater willingness to run into a burning building to save a trapped victim. But they only insignificantly increased their willingness to engage in mundane helping. For example, it had little impact on their willingness to work at a homeless shelter. Heroism displays friendship insurance reliability. This encourages all types of friendship reciprocity relationships, even romantic ones. Chapter 9. Primal fundraising delivers practical value with identity and audience. This is totally worth it. The noble dream. Small nonprofits have needs. Often it's obvious. The furnishings are a bit ragged. The space is cramped. The conditions are Spartan. But it's fine. All this just makes the great struggle faced by the heroic leaders more noble. Besides, one day that big gift will come in. One day a passing wealthy donor will recognize their plight and write $1 million check. Look, I understand. It's fun to engage in magical thinking. People buy lottery tickets every day. And besides, the struggling nonprofit is doing good things. It deserves a big gift. This makes the fantasy particularly alluring. It feels almost plausible. And yet, that gift never actually comes. Why not? The crass reality. This administrator hero story feels noble. But sometimes this can be a barrier to understanding. It makes it harder to see the obvious. So let's consider something much less noble. Suppose a friend asks for your help. Her brother runs a used car lot, but he's struggling. Perhaps you could stop in and give him some advice. So you visit. The furnishings are a bit ragged. The space is cramped. The conditions are Spartan. The manager says, "Things are tight right now, but one day we'll make $1 million sale. Then things will change around here." You respond, "Really? Wow! So where is this $1 million car?" The manager hesitates. $1 million car? Well, we don't have one of those on the lot. But, when that customer walks in with $1 million to spend, we'll figure something out. This place will really take off when that happens. You ask, "So you're waiting for $1 million sale, but you don't have $1 million car to sell?" He responds, "You make a good point. Here, let me fix that." Taking a pen, he changes the sign on one of the cars to read $1 million. You say, "But that's not $1 million car." It is now, laughs the manager. You respond, no, I mean it's not worth $1 million. He says, it is to me. See, I wrote it down right there. You explain, no, I mean it's not worth $1 million to the customer. There's a pause. You sigh and continue. Look, I may not know much about your business, but you can't expect $1 million sale if you don't have $1 million car on the lot. And you can't just stick that silly price tag on it, even if you think it's worth that much. That doesn't help. It's got to be worth that much to the customer. Back to fundraising. So why hasn't that small nonprofit received its $1 million gift? Consider the same questions. Is there a $1 million car on the lot? Have they been showing that car to any potential buyers? For many small charities, the answer is no. Certainly, if a donor walked in with $1 million to spend, they would figure something out, but that's not the same thing. So the answer is simple, right? Just slap on a different price tag. Next time, instead of asking for 1,000, just ask for $1 million instead. Now you are a major gifts fundraiser. Actually, no, that's not how it works. It's fun to think one day that $1 million gift will come in. It's harder to think one day we'll deliver value to a donor worth $1 million gift. That's not fun or magical. That's hard work. Delivering value as a goal. Charities often don't get $1 million gift because they aren't trying. Maybe they're trying to get that much cash, but they aren't trying to deliver that much value. They aren't trying to offer an experience worth $1 million to the donor. In fact, delivering value to the donor may not even make sense to them. It doesn't fit into the administrator hero story. In that worldview, donors are supposed to give because we deserve it. They're not supposed to give because we deliver value to them. In that worldview, here is the donor's value proposition. Give us your money. We'll use it to accomplish our goals. Take it or leave it. Donors mostly will leave it. Of course, small social compliance gifts can still happen. A pat on the head gift is possible. A small isn't that nice for you gift still makes sense. But don't expect the transformational gift. That value proposition isn't going to compel any donor to make a major gift. It's not going to inspire sacrificial giving. Let me be blunt. Is delivering a compelling donor experience a core competency of your charity? If not, then every other charity your donor gives to had better answer the same way. Otherwise, your organization will get left out. Delivering value with heroism. The one big thing in fundraising is always the same. Advance the donor's hero story. Fundamentally, this is about delivering value to the donor. It is, in particular, about delivering the kind of value that only philanthropy can. This is the kind of value that consuming more stuff won't give. So what does it mean to deliver value to a donor this way? A hero story is a circular journey that results in an enhanced identity. The simplified steps are these. Original identity, links to challenge, links to victory, links to enhanced identity. Or simply, identity links to challenge, links to victory, links back to identity. This pattern also matches the steps for a heroic donation. A heroic donation is a sacrificial gift that protects the donor's people and values in a crisis. This matches the story cycle. A sacrificial gift in a crisis is the challenge. A sacrificial gift in a crisis that protects references the victory. A sacrificial gift in a crisis that protects the donor's people and values references the identity connection. Delivering value. Enhanced identity. The ultimate result of a hero's journey is an enhanced identity. The ultimate result of a heroic gift is the same. This enhanced identity is both internal, within the donor, and external, within the donor's community. Let's start with the practical side. What does it mean to deliver external enhanced identity? We've already seen it in the Primal game. The first law of sustainable giving in nature is this: giving must be seen by partners who are able and willing to reciprocate. The greater the ability and willingness of the audience to reciprocate, the more value making the gift has. This value comes from enhancing the donor's external identity. Call it reputation. Call it prestige. Whatever you call it, an enhanced public identity can be valuable. It's valuable if the audience is right. A heroic gift can deliver value by enhancing external identity. But this requires a heroic gift audience. Delivering value audience. Creating a compelling gift audience rarely happens accidentally. Developing an audience of, quote, partners who are able and willing to reciprocate, close quote, isn't easy. It takes hard work. And it's hard work that happens only if the charity wants to deliver value to the donor. If donors are supposed to give because we deserve it, then doing this work doesn't make sense. But if the goal is to deliver value to the donors, then it does. How can a charity create this audience? Well, it can start by being a good audience. A charity can act like a stable, reciprocal, reliable friend. It can deliver gratitude for a gift. It can confirm the donor's enhanced identity. Even more powerful, it can build a compelling audience. This means building a community of supporters. The potential reciprocity from a single partner can be significant. This is called direct reciprocity. You gave to me, or not, I'll return the favor, or not. The potential for reciprocity becomes exponentially larger when a whole community is reciprocal. This is called indirect reciprocity. I've seen you give to others, or not, I'll return the favor, or not. An audience increases giving. Anonymous donations can't improve the donor's public identity. In actual fundraising, they're also rare. Rare as in 99% of gifts are not anonymous. In experiments, lowering visibility of the giving decision decreases donations. More visibility equals more giving. Oddly, this is true even if the feeling of visibility comes only from a picture of watching eyes. This can also happen with gifts and wills. In one historical example, testators were actually put on stage. Researchers compared different 17th century Dutch towns. They explained, quote, in Zwolle, people approached the bench of aldermen, a civic institution, to make their last will, whereas in Leiden and Utrecht, citizens went to private notaries. In Zwolle, they were specifically asked to remember the poor. Close quote. Did this public stage make a difference? In Leiden and Utrecht, just over 10% of wills included charitable gifts. At the same time in Zwolle, 76% of wills did so. Making the decision visible had a huge impact. Audience matters. A supportive audience matters even more. Experiments show that encouragement from others, including other donors, increases giving. Encouragement to give is even more powerful if it comes from group leaders, especially elected ones. An approving audience, in particular a high-status one, leads to more giving. Making the audience optional lowers giving. Audience drives giving. But this doesn't mean people always want an audience. In fact, the opposite may be true. In one lab experiment, people got a $10 bonus. They could share any of it with another player. This choice to share or not would be public. They first decided how much to share. Later, they got a chance to opt out. This meant they would get only $9, not $10, but this money could not be shared. The choice to opt out was also private. Other players would never know. The result? 40% of those who initially chose to give later opted out. Why take $9 instead of $10? Or why not take $10, keep $9, and share $1? Because not giving, or giving only $1, looks bad. It looks selfish. If the initial decision was private rather than public, only 4% opted out. But making the decision private had another effect. Giving dropped by a third. Once again, having an audience leads to more giving. Giving changes status with the audience. Having an audience encourages giving. It also opens the possibility for indirect reciprocity. This can have real economic consequences. These even show up in experiments. One setup is this. The participants each get money. They then decide how much to share with the group. Later, they pick a group member as a partner or a leader. Who do they pick? When they pick a partner, people usually pick the most generous player. When they pick a leader, the results are the same. When they predict who would earn the most money for the group, the answer is also the same. People prefer the most generous person. In one experiment, people had to pick from 2 group members for a profitable venture. The researchers explained that people, quote, almost always choose to interact with the more generous member, close quote. Previous giving behavior affects others' choices for partners and leaders. In the lab, a charitable reputation has economic benefits. Status from giving can deliver cash value. Experiments in a lab are one thing, but what about the real world? Is it economically valuable to be seen as charitable? Of course. Think about it. Why do corporations donate? These are pure profit-making machines, and yet they donate. Why? Because it works. Because even for corporations, public identity is valuable. Research confirms this. Corporate charitable giving predicts future revenue. For consumer firms, it predicts customer satisfaction. It boosts reputation for features important to customers. For example, quality of products or services. Investors. For example, value as a long-term investment. And partners. For example, capacity to innovate. Hollywood movies confirm this too. Perhaps the most transparently self-interested character in modern film is the corporate raider Gordon Gekko. In the 1987 film Wall Street, Gekko delivers his famous "Greed is good" speech. And yet, even this extreme character says, "I just got on the board of the Bronx Zoo. It cost me $1 million." Why would this selfish corporate raider character give $1 million to a charity? Because it provides access to powerful friends. Because it displays his resources. Because it signals shared values. Because membership is a greenhouse for reciprocal alliances. These all have substantial economic value. The point isn't that your donors are soulless corporations or greedy corporate raiders. The point is that charities can deliver real value to donors. Improving a donor's external, public identity matters. It can have real-world cash money consequences. Primal math. Consider this strategic calculation. Suppose I have a mutually beneficial joint venture. It should benefit both me and my potential partner. Whom should I pick as a partner? Philanthropy can help me decide. How? Consider the following. What if, through philanthropy, one potential partner displays financial strength? This might be helpful. If we get into a crisis, this partner apparently has the resources to get us out. That's a win for me. What if his giving also supports our shared group? If he benefits, he'll probably help our shared group. I care about our group, so that's also a win for me. Because we share group membership, I also have extra leverage. If my partner acts badly, I can alert other group members to this. That's also a win for me. These are all reasons that make him the preferred choice. These are also reasons why he might prefer me as a partner. It's a win-win. Fundraiser as builder of heroic donation audience. A heroic donation is a sacrificial gift that protects the donor's people or values in a crisis. It shows both ability and willingness to protect in a time of need. This demonstrates friendship insurance reliability. But to be valuable, this demonstration requires the right audience. The right audience must include desirable friendship insurance partners. In the Primal context, such powerful and supportive friends were critical. They meant the difference between life and death. In the modern world, the result is only slightly different. In a political conflict, they might be the difference between political life and death. In a liquidity crunch, they might be the difference between economic life and death. This is where the charity can function as a major gifts greenhouse. The charity can build the right audience and opportunities for transformational, heroic giving. The first rule of Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club. Reputational benefits for donors are real. They are motivational. But if these benefits are seen as the reason for the gift, it destroys the identity enhancement. In experiments, giving a public financial payment for a charitable act doesn't work. It actually reduces the charitable behavior. One experiment found that direct benefits for giving did, at least, make one group feel better. They increased satisfaction and reduced guilt for those who didn't support the charity. When giving appears motivated by benefits, it loses its value as a signal. Delivering value to donors is powerful, but it must be done in the right way. The value can be real, but it must preserve the reputational benefits from making the gift. The gift can be smart, but it must still advance the donor's hero story. Conclusion. Delivering practical value to a donor starts by building the right audience. It starts by building a community. This begins the move from giving to sharing. In the next chapter, we'll explore what this means. Chapter 10. The Power of Community in Primal Fundraising. I'm not just giving, I'm sharing. Giving versus sharing. Are we asking people to give, or are we asking them to share? This might feel like a trivial choice of synonyms. It's not. Giving can be arm's length, anonymous, and transactional. The giver and receiver are separated. The giver is higher. The receiver is lower. Giving helps those people. Sharing is different. Sharing helps us. Each person is both giver and receiver. It's not equal, but it is reciprocal. It is mutual. Sharing is communal. It means being part of a group, a partnership, a community. We can ask an outsider to give, but we can't ask an outsider to share. Sharing is communal. This means several things. Sharing requires membership. Sharing is visible to the community. Sharing supports community goals. Sharing follows community norms. Examples of giving versus sharing. Suppose a church member donates for their new building. He is part of a community, the congregation. The congregation is working together to fund a new building, so the donor is part of a community of fellow donors and other supporters. The congregation will use the new building, so he is also part of a community of beneficiaries. Now consider the same gift without group membership. It's a gift for a different congregation. They're in a different region. They're from a different denomination. He doesn't know any donors to the project. He doesn't know any people who will use the building. A request for this gift would be different. It's still a request to give, but it's not a request to share. It isn't sharing because it isn't communal. The donor isn't part of the relevant community. He isn't part of the community of donors or other supporters. He isn't part of the community of beneficiaries. This isn't just about religious giving. Consider the patron giving to a local art museum. He spends time with other donors and art lovers at museum events. So he is part of a community of fellow donors and other supporters. He enjoys the museum exhibitions. So he is part of a community of beneficiaries. Remove his membership from these communities, and the donation becomes uninspiring. It's no longer sharing, it's just giving. Principles from Primal Origins. Sharing is different because it's communal. This is also important in natural origins. Sustainable giving to unrelated others can occur in nature. Biologists model this with a game. In the simple game, two players both face these payoffs. I don't give and they don't give, we each get 1 point. I give and they also give, we each get 2 points. I give and they don't give, I get 0 points, they get 3 points. I don't give and they give, I get 3 points, they get 0 points. Each must choose before knowing what the other will do. Giving is costly, but if both players give, the overall outcomes are better. When players interact repeatedly, research shows the winning strategy. Lead with a gift, then act reciprocally. But there's a problem. This strategy is a winning strategy, but it depends. It depends on the community. Stable strategies. The game models nature. In nature, a winning strategy must be evolutionarily stable. In other words, if everyone follows the strategy, anyone else entering with a different strategy should fail. Consider how this applies in the game. Suppose everyone always gave no matter what. Everyone wins. This seems great, but it can't last. It's not evolutionarily stable. If a never-give player entered that world, he would win every time. In natural selection, never-give players would then replicate. They would wipe out the always-give players. Giving without tit-for-tat reciprocity is not stable. Oddly, charities often expect this unnatural, always-give behavior from donors. They keep asking donors to give without any signals of reciprocity. In the game and in nature, this giving behavior is deadly. For the charity, moving from giving to sharing also means delivering value to donors. In the game, an always-give strategy is not stable. In contrast, reciprocal altruism is stable. You give first. This is altruism. Then you do whatever that player did to you last time. This is reciprocal altruism. This world can become universally altruistic. Everyone shares with everyone else, except no one shares with the bad actors. This world is stable. Suppose a never-give player enters. That player wins round 1 but loses all repeated rounds. Meanwhile, the reciprocal altruism players will be sharing with each other. They will be getting further ahead of the never-give player. In natural selection, the never-give player disappears. The dark side. But now let's go to the dark side. Suppose the world is different. Now it's composed entirely of never-give players. What happens to a new reciprocal altruism player? Every time he encounters a new player, he loses. Then he stops giving to that player. But he takes many losses the other players don't. He finishes last. This never-give world is also stable. No new player can win against it. Return of the altruists. Is this never-give world permanently stuck? Not necessarily. The never-give world is stable. No new player can win against it, but a new community of players can. Again, suppose everyone plays never give. Next, a new cluster of reciprocal altruists enters. Whenever possible, they interact with each other. Their mutual sharing pushes them ahead of the never-give players. Because they enter as a community, they will dominate the never-give players. Game theory researchers explain, quote, altruists can survive in such a never-share world if they are grouped together, so that the benefits of altruism are enjoyed primarily by other altruists who then earn relatively high payoffs and are imitated, close quote. Reciprocal altruists can win, even in a dark, never-share world. They can win, but only if they enter as a community. The reverse process doesn't work. Researchers explain, quote, the gear wheels of social evolution have a ratchet, close quote. Once reciprocal altruism becomes dominant, a cluster of never-give players can't invade. Even if never-give players enter as a community, it wouldn't matter. Their community isn't helpful. It's non-cooperative. Community without sharing is useless. The power of community. Indirect reciprocity. In the game, sustainable giving requires community. A single altruist, even a reciprocal one, is vulnerable. But a community of reciprocal altruists is strong and stable. A sharing, reciprocal community does something else. It increases the consequences of the giving decision. So far, the game has been focused only on direct interactions between two players. This is called direct reciprocity. Simply put, this means you shared with me, therefore I share with you. Or you didn't share with me, therefore I don't share with you. When giving is visible to a reciprocal community, this changes things. It allows indirect reciprocity. This means you shared with him, therefore I share with you. Or you didn't share with him, therefore I don't share with you. Before, the reaction to a giving decision was limited. It was limited to one other player. That player might not be encountered again frequently. He might even leave or die. But an enduring community can last forever. The payback from one player is limited. The potential payback from an entire community is exponentially larger. Fundraiser as builder of community. The charity can serve as a greenhouse for this community building. Donors can build alliances with the charity and its supporters. Sometimes they can do this with the charity's beneficiaries too. As these relationships arise, donors become part of a group. They move from giving to sharing. This is valuable because group members help each other. The natural tendency to benefit group members arises repeatedly in experiments. It even happens when the other group members are randomly assigned and anonymous. Allowing future cooperation among group members makes the effect even stronger. It can start simple. Just using group language helps. In one experiment, calling a potential donor and recipient, quote, a two-member group, increased donations by 15%. Describing the gift as dividing funds among a 2-member group increased donations by 29%. Community support matters. One signal of indirect reciprocity is audience encouragement. In experiments, encouragement from others, such as other donors, increases giving. People are more likely to give when other players make approving statements or indicate that they also plan to give. This encouragement to give was even more powerful when it came from group leaders. This was especially true if the leaders were elected. One meta-analysis looked at over 100 experiments using variations of the Primal giving game. It found that giving increased whenever conversations between prospective donors were allowed. Even in the lab, building donor community through dialogue increases giving. Encouragement from others works, but it is only a signal of future indirect reciprocity. If future behavior contradicts the signal, it becomes meaningless. Thus, in experiments, the effect of verbal encouragement fades or disappears when the primal giving game is repeated. Over time, giving depends upon the actual experience resulting from the gift. In the same way, a charity's words and phrases can help to encourage an initial gift. But if the donor's experience ultimately wasn't worth the initial gift, he is unlikely to make another one. Enhanced identity. Sharing delivers more value to the donor than just giving. In formal terms, it delivers more indirect reciprocity. It does this through shared membership in a community. But sharing also delivers a higher level of enhanced identity. Identity comes, at least in part, from group affiliations. It comes from communities. Effective sharing enhances the donor's community, the donor's connection with that community, and the donor's standing in that community. Consider these benefits in terms of the universal hero story. The ending of that story is always the same. The hero returns to a place of beginning with a gift to improve that world. This is not merely giving. This is sharing. The donor's original world is the source of his original identity. The concluding gift enhances the hero's original world, the hero's connection with that original world, and the hero's standing in that original world. The universal hero story is the story of enhanced identity. It's a story, ultimately, not just of giving, but of sharing. Billions. These story elements are powerful. Their power goes beyond just games and experiments. It goes beyond just small gift decisions. One study analyzed the letters accompanying 187 billionaires' giving pledge commitments. These were pledges to give at least half of their wealth to charity. Most letters included two elements. First, they included an origin story. The letters referenced family upbringing as the source motivating generosity. The donors' giving stories started with their original identities. In the hero story, this is the original world. Second, they referenced a desire not to give, but to give back. Giving back is different than giving. It is a circular process. It is a form of sharing. Giving back requires a community. In the hero story, the hero returns to the original world with a gift. The idea of sharing is powerful. It's powerful in the lab. It's powerful in gifts of small amounts, and it's powerful with gifts of billions. Next step. Moving from giving to sharing requires community. Building that community can be an important part of fundraising, but community doesn't spontaneously produce donations. Fundraising still requires asking. To harness the power of community, that ask must be communal. It must be visible to the community. It must benefit the community or the community's goals. It must follow the community's norms. The next chapter looks at this issue. Chapter 11. Social Norms in Primal Fundraising. People like me make gifts like this. Verbe docent, exempla trahunt. Quote, words teach people, examples compel them. Latin proverb. It's simple. We want the donor to say yes. But how? How do we create the conditions that encourage that yes? Let's look at theory, experiment, and practice. Theory, the primal giving game. The primal giving game models the natural origins of giving. In the game, sustainable giving depends on community norms. In a reciprocal, sharing community, giving makes sense. Others become more likely to share with givers in the future. Givers benefit from their enhanced public reputation. Giving is a winning move. In a non-sharing or non-reciprocal community, giving does not make sense. Others do not become more likely to share. Givers get no benefit from their public reputation. Giving is a losing move. The right move depends on which world we are in. How can we tell the difference? It's complicated. In real life, there are many possible games and communities. People may be reciprocal in some, but not in others. Some gifts may help reputation, while others won't. We could try to test every alternative, but choosing wrong is costly. The smarter play is this. Follow the examples of others in your community. Examples are powerful, but examples of people like me are even more powerful. The key question is, what do people like me do? The answer shows the community norm. The community norm dictates the right move. Theory, the monomyth. Showing that people like me make gifts like this matches the primal giving game. It also matches the universal hero story, monomyth. It does so by linking the challenge with the full story cycle. That cycle is original identity links to challenge, links to victory, links to enhanced identity. Showing that people like me make gifts like this connects original identity to the challenge. Who is like me? The answer is personal. It's subjective. But whatever the answer is, it reveals my identity. If others like me accept a challenge, it links the challenge to my identity. It shows that I am the type of person who accepts challenges like this. I am the type of person who makes gifts like this. It also connects challenge to the victory. These other people also gave. They must have thought it was a good idea. They must have thought their gift would make a difference. That makes it easier for me to believe the same thing. It makes it easier to believe in the hope of victory. This helps link the challenge to a victory. It also helps link the victory to enhanced identity. These other people gave. They must have thought that the promised victory was important. This means two things. First, the victory likely benefits our shared group. Our group is a key source of my identity. Thus, the victory enhances this source of my identity. Second, other group members will likely appreciate my efforts to achieve this victory. After all, it was important enough to compel them to give too. This appreciation for my gift solidifies my standing within the group. The gift helps my group, and it helps my standing within the group. Both of these link the victory to an enhanced identity. We want the donor to say yes. That yes comes in response to a challenge. The effective challenge is part of the full story cycle. It must be rooted in the donor's original identity. It must promise a victory that delivers an enhanced identity. Showing that people like me make gifts like this helps. It helps link the challenge with the full story cycle. It helps make the challenge more compelling. It helps the donor move to a yes. It works. It works not only in games and myth, it also works in experiments. Experimental results. Other people. Others' examples can influence any type of helping. In experiments, they influence giving. They also influence volunteering. They can even influence stopping to help a person with car troubles. Others' charitable examples can make donating feel like the normal, expected, or default option. Such defaults can influence behavior. For example, describing a gift as an opt-out rather than an opt-in increases giving. Others' examples can be powerful, but this power increases when the examples are like me. If other people make gifts like this, that's informative. If people like me make gifts like this, that's compelling. One experiment in a law firm found a dramatic result. Mentioning, quote, "Many of our customers like to leave a gift to charity in their will," close quote, more than tripled the share of people who chose to do so themselves. The story of Sarah. People like me. In one experiment, I compared the effects of two messages. One described how you could use a charitable gift annuity. The other was identical, except it described how Sarah had used a charitable gift annuity. This message worked better. People were more interested in making the gift after reading about Sarah. And then things got more interesting. In another test, I used identical language, but also showed a picture of Sarah. And the results got worse. The example became less persuasive. To learn more, I next tested 3 more pictures: younger Sarah, middle-aged Sarah, and older Sarah. The result? If the picture was close in age to the subject, it made the example more persuasive. If not, it made the example less persuasive. But further analysis revealed that this result actually wasn't about age. It was about identity. Statistically, age mattered only when it changed the answer to this question: how much do you identify with Sarah? She is a lot, somewhat, a little bit, not really, not at all, like me. If Sarah was like me, her example was powerful. Otherwise, it wasn't. Experimental results. People like me. People like me make gifts like this. It's a powerful fundraising message. Other experiments show this same result. One experiment used a public radio station pledge drive. New members calling in were told, "We had another member, he or she contributed $240. This example gift was larger than the typical gift. The use of he or she alternated randomly. What happened? When the he or she matched the caller's gender, average gifts were 1/3 larger than when it didn't. A single letter, S, made a big difference. In another experiment, students at a Swedish university were asked for a donation. They were randomly told the following. Group 1 was told nothing else. Group 2 was told that 73% of university students in Sweden made the gift when asked. Group 3 was told that 73% of university students at their university made the gift when asked. In the first group, 44% donated. In the second, 60% did. In the third, 79% did. As the example became more like the donor, giving increased. Another experiment used students at an Italian university. They were told, quote, on average, Italians, Germans, donated €70 to support this project, close quote. When the example was Italian, donations were nearly 50% greater than when it was German. Again, giving by People like me was more influential. This isn't just about age or gender or nationality. It's about identity. Researchers call this the identity congruency effect. When people like me make gifts like this, the examples are powerful. More results. People like me. These same types of results show up in many experiments with giving or volunteering. One lab experiment reported, quote, peer effects are positive, with subjects' donations increasing in those of lab mates and past subjects. However, subjects did not respond to gifts by an anonymous donor, close quote. This also arose in an experiment with professors. Results showed that professors' giving was influenced by another's initial donation amount, but not always. This happened only when the initial donor was revealed to be a member of their own department, a peer, or their department chair, a leader. Without this information, there was no significant response. Another study found that showing people data on how their giving compared with others of their same age, education, and region increased their subsequent charitable giving. A meta-analysis found a similar result. It reported, quote, this systematic literature review, 35 eligible studies, investigates how individuals' charitable giving is affected by the giving of others. It proposes a new mechanism of decision-making in charitable giving through an important psychological construct, similarity, close quote. If other people give, that's interesting. If people like me give, that's powerful. Experimental results. Make gifts like this. A socially relevant example creates a social norm. This tends to pull giving towards 2 points. 1, giving at the norm. 2, not giving at all. Why does this happen? Giving costs, but giving less than the norm still violates the norm. Thus, giving too little doesn't help reputation, but it still costs something. So it's a costly failure. It's a bad decision. Giving more than the norm could be acceptable, but the extra cost might be pointless. So the best options likely narrow to just 2, giving at the norm or not giving at all. These offsetting effects show up in experiments. For example, seeding a transparent donation box with large bills generates fewer but larger gifts. Seeding it with coins generates more but smaller gifts. Mentioning a large gift by another in an appeal letter raises average gift size, but it lowers the likelihood of giving. One UK study asked people to donate from a £10 payment. Adding this phrase, quote, did you know that other participants gave £5 and they said that participants such as yourself should give £5? Close quote, had offsetting effects. It increased the share of people giving £5, but it also increased the share who gave nothing. The likelihood of giving amounts other than £5 fell. Again, the social norm pushed giving towards 2 points, giving at the norm or not giving at all. For fundraising, the ideal example is a stretch gift. In one experiment, a phone-a-thon for a public radio station referenced another's gift. If the example was a bit larger than the donor's last gift, it tended to increase the donation. If smaller, it tended to decrease the donation. Examples from major gifts. These experiments show the power of others' examples in small gift decisions. But major gifts are rare. They're harder to test, yet the same answer emerges. How can we persuade an ultra-high net worth donor to give? By sharing examples of other people like me. Josh Burkholz explains, quote, You need to be branded as the type of place that other ultra-high net worth donors give to. How do we do that? One of the key ways is to really go beyond just showing what your organization's impact on the world is, but to actually demonstrate how specific donors have made an impact on the world. Close quote. The key information isn't just about the charity. It's about others who are like the donor. It's about showing that people like me make gifts like this. Similarly, a 2017 study of ultra-high net worth donors found, quote, nearly 60% report collaborating with other funders, close quote. In his interviews with mega gift donors, Gerald Panis shares, quote, people enjoy being part of the club, being associated with prominent men and women who are giving to the same cause, he says. And my interviewing bears this out. Very few donors enjoy the independent route, close quote. Examples from people like me work. But what if we don't already have mega donors to use as examples? There are still ways to provide aspirational examples. As president of Connecticut College, Claire Gaudiani massively expanded fundraising success. The college's endowment more than quadrupled. Her approach? Sharing donor stories from American history. She recommends, quote, show how the vision of a major donor can transform an institution, Mary Garrett at Johns Hopkins, or an entire city, Ken Dayton in Minneapolis, close quote. But she shares these stories in a special way. She begins them with a phrase like, quote, you remind me of, insert historical name. The donor responds with, who is that? She then shares the story of a donor whose gifts made a major impact. Because of this introduction, this isn't just an example. For the donor, it becomes an example of someone like me. Conclusion. People like me make gifts like this. It's a powerful message. It works in the primal giving game. It reveals a reciprocal sharing community norm. It works in the universal hero story cycle. It helps ground the challenge in the donor's original identity. It helps confirm the promised victory, delivering an enhanced identity. It works in lab experiments. It works in field experiments. It works in simple gifts. It works in complex planned gifts. It works in bequest gifts. It works in small dollar gifts. It works in major gifts. And most importantly, it works for people like you. Chapter 12. Delivering transcendent value in primal fundraising. I believe in this. Effective fundraising can deliver real value to donors. For example, it can enhance public reputation. This external identity has tangible economic value. But fundraising can do more. It can also deliver transcendent value. This comes from a private, internal identity. It comes from a moral identity. Moral identity reflects how well one's life matches one's ideal values. Primal origins, morality as a gift. An internal moral identity may seem intangible. It may feel far removed from the rational world of natural selection and game theory, but it does connect. How? It connects in this way. Morality is a code of conduct. More precisely, it's a pro-social code. Pro-social actions benefit the group. Thus, acting morally is like a gift to the group. This gift may be simply an individual helpful act, but it can help the group in another way. It can support a shared pro-social code. The code dictates that group members help each other. This mutual concern makes the group stronger. Thus, supporting a pro-social code makes the group stronger. It acts like a gift to the group. This support can even include punishing code violators. The punisher incurs cost in order to enforce a code, but the code benefits the group. Thus, costly punishment can be a form of pro-social action. In the Primal giving game, this is called indirect reciprocity. A world of indirect reciprocity strongly encourages sharing. The reinforcement may be positive or negative, but the effect is similar. Supporting a pro-social code acts like a gift to the group. Primal origins of moral identity. Similarity. When are such gifts to the group a good idea? It might depend on one's similarity with the shared group. In Hamilton's simple math, a gift is genetically helpful when my cost is less than their benefit multiplied by our similarity. The trade-off weighs the cost of support against the benefit to the group. The value of this group benefit depends on genetic similarity with group members. However, the natural origins of code support go beyond this simple math. Primal origins of moral identity. Alliances. If people aren't related, Hamilton's math doesn't work. Yet, sustainable giving is still possible. It is possible through reciprocal altruism. Biologists model this using the Primal giving game. In the game, each player can give to the other. A gift helps the other player more than it costs, but both players must decide to give or not before knowing what the other will do. When behavior is hidden, reciprocity is not possible. We can't respond to an action that we can't see. Without reciprocity, not sharing is the only logical move. That's why visibility is so important. If sharing is invisible, no one shares. This choice is individually rational, but everyone ends up worse off because no one shares. Is there a way around this problem? Is there a way that leads to reciprocal sharing, even when it is invisible? There is. Suppose a group of players adopted an internal moral code. When playing with fellow group members, they would act as if they were being watched. Each player would give up rational opportunities to cheat fellow group members. They would share with each other even when their actions were hidden. The result? This moral code group would succeed. It would outperform other groups. Being part of this group would be more valuable than being part of a purely rational, self-interested group. In natural selection, being part of a strong, mutually cooperative group is an ideal scenario. Thus, playing the game as if one is being watched, even when actions are hidden, can be a superior strategy for the group. This gameplay matches the desire for internal moral identity. It means one's private actions match one's ideal public values. It means acting the same whether the actions are hidden or not. Primal origins of moral identity. Alliance problems. This moral code group would outperform others. It works. But there's a problem. It works only if other group members actually follow the code. To be stable, these groups must exclude cheaters. They must exclude those who claim they will follow the pro-social values, but then don't. But how is this possible if cheating is hidden? One solution is to use a visible substitute for the hidden action. Group members can express their commitment to following the pro-social code using costly signals. In religious groups, a costly signal might be a special diet or dress. It can also be a gift or sacrifice, such as burning valuable goods. Increasing group member monitoring also helps. Over time, an accumulation of costly signals, including unknowingly observed behavior, means something. It predicts the person will consistently follow the moral code in the future. A group of such similarly committed people is strong. It includes those who aren't internally committed to the group's moral code. It excludes cheaters. These game theory concepts lead to practical suggestions. For example, maintaining a long history of commitment to a code is a particularly valuable signal. Thus, reminders of one's historical commitment to such values encourage continued support for the values. Following the moral code is also strategic if other group members support these values. Rejecting such values risks being subjected to costly punishment. It risks exclusion from the cooperative group. Thus, reminders that other group members support these values can also increase support for the values. Even when hidden, supporting the moral code can still make sense. It makes sense because it helps other group members. Moral values are pro-social. But helping the group can also help the individual. Being part of a strong, mutually cooperative group is valuable. In natural selection, such alliances can be key to survival. Thus, reminders of how such moral values benefit one's group can encourage support for the values. Story origins of moral identity. Primal game theory explains the power of supporting a pro-social moral code. But what about practical reality? What about fundraising? Fundraising can match the game. Giving can support a pro-social moral code. It can enhance the donor's internal moral identity. How? These steps are already familiar. The one big thing in fundraising is to advance the donor's hero story. The hero story, monomyth cycle, is original identity links to challenge, links to victory, links to enhanced identity. Or as a loop, identity links to challenge, links to victory, links back to identity. Previous chapters show how this cycle can enhance external public identity. These same steps can also enhance an internal, private, moral identity. They can move the donor from his original moral identity to an enhanced moral identity. In both cases, the process starts with the donor's original identity. Original identity, reminders. Most giving supports some moral value. It might be faith or compassion. It might be freedom or education. The options are endless. But when does such giving enhance the donor's internal moral identity? It depends. The first question is this: how much are these values part of the donor's ideal moral identity? If the values don't matter, the gift won't help. If the values do matter, then the gift can help. It can help the donor's life match his ideal values. Thus, the value of the gift depends on the importance of the supported values. But this importance can be fluid. Reminders can influence it. This shows up in experiments using religious reminders. In one, showing people the words spirit, divine, God, sacred, and prophet more than doubled gifts to others. In another, organ donations increased if the solicitor wore a Christian cross. Another found a Sunday effect. Religious people were more likely to support charity, but only if they had visited their place of worship on that day. In another, mindfulness meditation more than doubled gifts to the United Way. Thus, spiritual reminders encourage donations. But this is not just about religious values. The right setting or reminder can strengthen a connection with any values. In experiments, reminders make moral values more mentally accessible. They bring the values to the top of the mind. This, in turn, increases actions that match those values. Reminders strengthen the importance of the moral value. A gift that supports that moral value then becomes more attractive. The reminder helps link the gift with the donor's ideal moral identity. This connection makes the rest of the story more compelling. It makes the gift more attractive. Original identity, Socratic inquiry. Reminding people about desired values underlying a gift works, but even more powerful is getting them to talk about it. In experiments, people who first describe their connection with a value act differently. They become more likely to act according to that value. Expressing such an opinion once works. Expressing it multiple times in different ways works even better. This repetition increases commitment to the belief. It increases actions that match the belief. This also works in fundraising. Getting people to express their opinion about the importance of the underlying cause or values works. In experiments, this increases current gifts, future gift intentions, and charitable bequest intentions. It works in experiments for charities in higher education, environmental conservation, cancer research, animal welfare, international relief, and youth programs. Answering questions about the importance of underlying values or causes works. It works by highlighting the internal importance of those values. And the more times people do it, the more impact it has. Original identity, donor's story. The right setting can provide values reminders. Socratic inquiry can do the same. Either way, focusing on values can increase giving. If. Such reminders work only if the moral value is part of the donor's ideal moral identity. If it isn't, then this won't work. The gift might advance some moral value, but it doesn't advance the donor's moral value. Thus, the gift won't be compelling. To be compelling, the challenge must be rooted in the donor's desired moral identity. Otherwise, neither meeting the challenge nor winning the victory will enhance the donor's identity. A compelling gift requires each part of the story cycle. It requires identity, challenge, and victory. For example, suppose religious faith is not part of the donor's identity. Then a gift that supports that value won't help. It won't enhance the donor's internal moral identity. It won't be compelling. Different values work for different people. One experiment tested a gender difference. It pointed to findings that women, quote, consider relationships to be more central to their sense of self, close quote. It tested reminders of 5 relationship-centered moral traits: compassionate, kind, caring, friendly, and helpful. These reminders increased giving for women, but not for men. The researchers suggested that a different set of moral traits might work better for men. The one big thing in fundraising remains the same. Advance the donor's hero story. This means advancing the donor's story. A story about values that aren't part of the donor's identity isn't the donor's story. A gift that advances those values won't help. It won't advance this donor's story. Challenge. External threat. A story about values central to the donor's identity is the donor's story. But it's not yet a hero story. The hero story cycle starts with original identity. It can start by connecting to values that are part of this identity. It can start by highlighting the importance of these identity connections. But to advance the story, this identity must then connect to a challenge. A compelling challenge responds to a threat or opportunity. A threat to one's moral values can be external or internal. An external threat arises when an outside force attacks the moral value. An external threat is common in political cause fundraising. One experiment added an external threat to a political appeal letter. Doing so nearly doubled the share of people making gifts. The added phrases included, quote, "Powerful members of Congress are working hard to take away rights from women," and "These threats are real." Other experiments show similar results for threats related to issues in gun control, the environment, and abortion, showing that an opposing political candidate is ahead in fundraising also provides a threat, and it also increases donations. In another example, online donations to the ACLU were typically about $5 million per year. Then, President Trump took office. These donations shot up to over $120 million per year. Most hero stories involve responding to an external threat. In fundraising, external threats can make a huge impact. They can help create a more heroic giving opportunity. Challenge. Internal threat. A challenge to moral values can be external, but it can also be internal. An internal threat suggests a gap between desired internal moral identity and actual internal moral identity. This gap motivates action to fix the problem. It motivates action to improve internal moral identity. A gift can help to do this. Thus, highlighting this gap can motivate a related gift. Some experiments create this kind of internal threat. The threat highlights a gap between desired and actual moral identity. This increases guilt, but it also increases donations. In experiments, this happens after writing about one's own greediness or selfishness, making an accidental unfair split of money, using a counterfeit luxury product, or failing at a task that could have helped another. These situations create a gap between desired and actual internal moral identity. A gift helps close that gap. Thus, creating the gap motivates the gift. In another example, combining a charitable gift with a product can sometimes increase sales, but not always. It works if the product creates guilt. For example, it works for a hot fudge sundae. It works for chocolate truffles, but it doesn't work for laundry detergent. It doesn't work for a spiral notebook. Again, the concept is the same. If consuming the product creates a gap between desired and actual identity, the gap can motivate a gift. If the product doesn't create a gap, it doesn't motivate a gift. Challenging one's loyalty to an important value can also create a threat. It implies that there is a gap between desired and actual moral identity. For example, mentioning a resented stereotype that a group is ungenerous does this. In experiments, doing this causes group members to give more. Highlighting the alleged gap motivates the giving. Promising victory. The effective challenge responds to a threat, but it must also promise a victory. This victory can address the threat to the donor's values. For example, the previous appeal letter threat that nearly doubled giving also included the phrase, quote, "But we can stop them if we work together." That threat to the moral value was external. It was from an outside force. Thus, victory comes from defeating that outside force. A victory over an internal threat is also possible. The gift can reduce the gap between actual and desired internal moral identity. Giving can fix the problem by demonstrating commitment to the supported values. promising the donor's victory. Not all victories are compelling. The compelling victory must be tied to the donor's identity. It must also be the donor's victory. This is where charities often go wrong. Their natural tendency is to claim the victory as theirs. The victory enhances their own identity. This matches the administrator hero story. But this is not as compelling for the donor. This victory is not tied to the donor's actions. It doesn't enhance the donor's identity. In an experiment, one email focused on the charity as the actor. For example, it stated, quote, "The fashion industry has let these women down, but the charity won't." Another version added the donor as an actor. It instead stated, quote, "The fashion industry has let these women down, but you and the charity won't." The odds of people clicking on the link to learn more were 27% higher for the second message. When the donor delivers the victory, it enhances the donor's identity. This makes giving more attractive. The second message increased the odds of responding even more, by 40% among women. Why? In that case, the challenge connected to both the donor's original identity, female, and the donor's enhanced identity, the hero who delivers a victory. Connecting to more of the story cycle makes the request more compelling. Delivering victory, external threat. A challenge is more effective when it promises victory, leading to an enhanced identity. But how does the charity actually deliver on this promise? If the moral challenge is external, the goal is to resist the external foe. Victory comes from the impact of the gift. The charity can confirm this impact. It can confirm this victory. How? It can report the gift's impact. It can express gratitude for the gift's impact. It can encourage others to express gratitude for the gift's impact. It can publicize the gift's impact. Confirming the victory makes the next challenge more compelling. The hope of, "Yes, you can," is compelling, but it fades unless followed by, "Yes, you did." Delivering victory, internal threat. If the moral challenge is internal, the goal is different. The goal is to reduce the identity gap. Victory moves actual internal moral identity towards desired moral identity. Confirming the gift's impact can help here too. It can show that the donor is an effective, successful, victorious, and valuable member of the community. But internal victory can come even without impact. The victory comes simply from the making of the gift. It can verify that the donor is generous, faithful, committed, and sacrificial. The gift itself may even be destroyed. Such offerings are described in the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Pentateuch. The act of giving shows allegiance to the desired values regardless of impact. This type of victory is internal, but it can still be validated by others. The charity can confirm that the act of giving supports the desired values. Reporting, gratitude, and compatible publicity for the gift as an expression of the moral value provides this confirmation. Conclusion. Enhancing the donor's internal moral identity is powerful. It can tap into the deepest sources for sacrificial motivation. But delivering this transcendent value need not be a mysterious process. Enhancing either private or public identity uses the same processes. Both internal moral identity and external public reputation grow through the same steps. Original identity links to challenge, links to victory, links to enhanced identity. The process is familiar? The answer, once again, is simply this: advance the donor's hero story. Next up, the Fundraising Myth and Science series, Book 4, The Socratic Fundraiser, using questions to advance the donor's story. About the author. Russell James III, J.D., Ph.D., CFP, is a professor at Texas Tech University, where he holds the C.H. Foundation Chair in Personal Financial Planning. He directs the on-campus and online graduate program in Charitable Financial Planning, Planned Giving. He also teaches graduate courses in behavioral finance. He holds a Ph.D. in Consumer Economics from the University of Missouri, where his dissertation was on charitable giving. He graduated cum laude from the University of Missouri School of Law. He was a member of the Missouri Law Review and received the United Missouri Bank Award for Most Outstanding Work in Gift and Estate Taxation and Planning. Prior to his career as an academic researcher, Dr. James worked as the Director of Planned Giving for Central Christian College in Moberly, Missouri for 6 years, and later served as president of the college for more than 5 years, where he had direct and supervisory responsibility for all fundraising. During his presidency, the college successfully completed 2 major capital campaigns, built several new debt-free buildings, and more than tripled enrollment. Dr. James has published research in over 75 peer-reviewed scientific journal and law review articles. He has been quoted on charitable and financial issues in a variety of news sources, including The Economist, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, ABC News, U.S. News and World Report, USA Today, The Associated Press, Bloomberg News, and the Chronicle of Philanthropy. His financial neuroimaging research was profiled in the Wall Street Journal's Smart Money magazine. His other books include Visual Planned Giving, An Introduction to the Law and Taxation of Charitable Gift Planning, Inside the Mind of the Bequest Donor, a visual presentation of the neuroscience and psychology of effective planned giving communication. For links to his videos, slide presentations, and papers, please connect on LinkedIn.